Hey, what up, you nerds? Fallout here, and today we are going to review and rank every weapon perk in Destiny 2. Yep, it is going to be a long video. This is mainly directed at maybe newer players, or maybe if you're a veteran player and you're just not really sure, hey, what's going on with that weapon perk? Maybe I can learn more about that weapon perk. Does it work the way that Bungie tells us it does? Because some of them don't. Decided to put this video together. So if you want to jump to a particular weapon perk, I know probably a lot of people out there thinking, hey, nobody got time for this whole video. Yeah, you probably don't. But if you want to skip to any particular weapon perk, just go down on the bottom, the timeline of today's YouTube video, and I should have everything chaptered out. So if there's a particular weapon perk, I just want to learn about Kill Clip. I just want to learn about whatever. Just go ahead and jump to that weapon perk. By the way, we are only doing legendary weapon perks, and we're only doing perks in column 3 and 4. So if you were to open up light.gg or d2gunsmith.com, really only the weapon perks that you find at the end. So nothing like ricochet rounds, no barrel perks, no scopes, nothing that you would find in column 1 or column 2 of any weapon, mainly just column 3 and column 4. We're going to try and go through each and every one. I guarantee there will be weapon perks that I forget. 100,000,000% guarantee. If I do, sorry, I'm only human. Let me know down in the comment section what I forgot to cover, and I will go over them. Kind of as an addendum, I'll type them down low. Oh, I forgot this perk. My bad. There's a shockingly large number of perks in this game, and I'm recording this video right now in Season 14. I am currently on vacation. By the time that this video goes live, I recorded it in advance to make sure that I have content going up on the channel while I'm gone on vacation. There will no doubt be new weapon perks, at least, God, I hope there are new weapon perks in Season 15. There should be. So when I get back, we can review the new weapon perks together. Maybe I can put out an updated version of the video or a text addendum or something like that. We are starting off, we're going alphabetically. Adrenaline Junkie. Okay, so every time you get a kill with a grenade, not a grenade launcher, every time you get a kill with a grenade ability, you get extra damage for a brief window of time with Adrenaline Junkie. Even though weapon perks that give extra damage output are usually highly ranked, I'm not really sure about Adrenaline Junkie. I would much rather have a weapon damage perk that is tied to getting a kill with my weapon, because that's going to proc much more often than something like Adrenaline Junkie. But then again, you could be speccing out your Guardian in a way where you're throwing a lot of grenades. Maybe you're in a PvE build with something like a very high discipline build, throwing a lot of grenades. Maybe you got the handheld Supernova if you're a Warlock player. The numbers are pretty good. You can get up to a ×3 stack of Adrenaline Junkie. If you manage to pull it off, you're going to get the maximum damage output at ×3 is 33%, and the duration is really good, 10 seconds. So much longer than Rampage or Kill Clip could ever be. That's kind of the appeal. It's a high reward for something that won't come into play as often as Rampage or Kill Clip, because I think Rampage is only 3.5 seconds, Kill Clip might be 5, but Adrenaline Junkie is 10. So I would rank Adrenaline Junkie relatively high for PvE, because it's not very difficult to get a triple kill with a grenade in PvE. There are times in PvE where you can get your ability energy back relatively quickly. PvP, it's going to be situational for Adrenaline Junkie. I would much rather have, again, Rampage, Kill Clip over something like Adrenaline Junkie. If you can get it to activate in PvP and then you get that 10-second window, you're kind of sitting pretty. But yeah, relatively challenging perk to activate. Ambitious Assassin overflows the magazine based on the number of rapid kills before reloading. This is a really good weapon perk for PvE. If you're a new player, Ambitious Assassin is nice. Being able to overflow your magazine and have a much larger, beefier mag, meaning you can fire more and more and more without needing to reload, is really great for PvE. Not bad for PvP. Kind of situational. Right now, there's a weapon called the Salvager's Salvo Grenade Launcher, which comes with Ambitious Assassin. It's very nice because you can get kind of a multi-kill in PvE, send a bunch of red bar enemies flying, And because you've killed so many, you can overflow the mag. And even though normally it's a one-shot mag because it is a breach grenade launcher, now you have 2 shots in the mag. So it can be very helpful. I don't know if I would rank it tip-top tier. It definitely has potential for PvE. It can usually always help you. It's probably weapon dependent. There might be some weapons where, yeah, Ambitious Assassin totally roll with that, like the Salvager Salvo for crowd control, not necessarily for boss DPS, but it's a weapon perk with good viability for PvE. For PvP, I'm going to go with no. Usually for PvP, you want weapon perks that are going to activate all the time and come with great upside. Usually a damage improvement, usually an improvement to accuracy or targeting or handling, something like that. I would rank Ambitious Assassin low for PvP, but not totally in the toilet, but I would much rather probably have another weapon perk for a PvP weapon. Archer's Tempo. This is a weapon perk that is specific to bows for right now. The draw time is going to go down after every precision hit with your bow, meaning you draw an arrow back with your bow, you get a hit in the head on an enemy, and then the next time you load up another arrow and pull it back, the draw time is going to be much shorter, and you can just kind of keep that going. So you're kind of going to this weird little frenzy where you can fire arrows quicker and quicker. Yeah, it's good for PvE if you're a bow main. It's going to be very specific to people who play PvE with bows, which there are not a ton right now that I know of. The Monarch is great for Season 15. If you're watching in Season 15 right now, we have Overload Bow going on, but as far as I know, Monarch doesn't have any secret Archer's Tempo perk. Again, only going to apply to legendary weapons. So yeah, it could be great. If we ever get a legendary bow with some kind of insane perk combo to really take advantage of Archer's Tempo, that would be really neat. But for right now, yeah, it's fine if you're a bow user, but I think you could probably do much better in the perk department. For PvP, yeah, that could be nice. I feel like in PvP, people are using bows to get a tag with one thing and then change to another thing. So I would use maybe the Monarch to get a shot in the head and then quickly swap to either a hand cannon or maybe a pulse rifle, something else. That's kind of the play in PvP. If you're using a bow, usually get one big tag for a large chunk of damage, change to something else. So Archer's Tempo would only help you there if you wanted to do one hit and then another follow-up hit, which I'm sure could be good, but bows aren't really meta right now in PvP. They're good, they're annoying, but they're not top tier, I wouldn't think. So that's what Archer's Tempo does. Keep it, on your mental back burner. If we ever get a crazy PvE bow that can really take advantage of Archer's Tempo, that perk might make it great. But for now, it's okay. Assassin's Blade. This is a sword-only perk, which will give you better movement speed and damage after you get a sword kill. I think it's 15% damage for 5 seconds. Let me check. Yes, right there. 15% damage for 5 seconds. That's not bad. The only problem with Assassin's Blade is the way that people use swords. So in PvE, people are usually using swords to combat big, chunky, majors and ultras and bosses, big yellow health bar enemies. They're not really, you can use them to just swing your way through a crowd of red bar enemies, but in that particular scenario, you wouldn't probably really need the extra damage from clowning through red health enemies because they're already very weak. So you could get the better movement speed from Assassin's Blade, maybe cut up a few low-level hive or something like that, then run through the map quicker. Yeah, I don't really talk to a lot of people who are big on Assassin's Blade, mainly because, again, you're using your sword, usually, to take on big, major, and ultra enemies. And you need to finish off some kind of enemy in order to take advantage of Assassin's Blade. So there are better sword perks we'll go over later, where you can get a damage buff immediately without needing to kill something. And in PvP, Assassin's Blade, nobody cares at all because swords are already a one-hit kill in PvP, so the extra 15% damage probably not going to help you at all. The extra movement speed is nice, but we are in a shotgun meta. Shotguns and fusion rifles are both very strong, and grenade launchers too. Even if you get to close the gap a little bit better, I mean, you're probably using an exotic sword in PvP, or you're not using a sword at all. Auto-loading holster. So here is a very unique weapon perk. You have a holstered weapon. It is automatically going to reload after a short period of time. Now, this is interesting because I'm recording today's video in Season 14, but we know after reading Bungie's TWAB that in Season 15 they are going to be adding a new leg armor mod called Holster, which is going to gradually reload stowed weapons over time. Not an automatic full mag type thing, but like over time, we're assuming it will gradually reload any stowed weapon. But I believe they mentioned, let me check. Yes, they did, that the holster mod is not going to affect rocket launchers, one-shot grenade launchers, the breach grenade launchers, and bows. They're not going to be able to be affected by the holster armor mod, which is good for auto-loading holster because that's usually what I use it for. Auto-loading holster is a top-tier PvE weapon perk on single-shot grenade launchers. Absolutely top tier. Same thing for rocket launchers. Anything with a one-size mag usually is going to take a long time, like a rocket launcher. It's very annoying to reload. The breach grenade launcher, not tremendously long, but fairly annoying because you have to reload it after every shot. But auto-loading holster immediately takes that weakness and throws it right out the window. So it's a terrific PvE weapon perk to have because you can just fire off a grenade, change to a primary, keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting. 3 seconds go by, and then boom, your stowed grenade launcher automatically reloaded. I think it's a top tier weapon perk for PvE. For PvP, if you're rocking a grenade launcher, like the Truth Teller, yeah, it's a top tier weapon perk for that grenade launcher. I wouldn't recommend auto-loading holster on something like, I don't know, any other primary weapon. Not that it's going to matter because we're now going to have the holster armor mod. So for what it's worth, try to get a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher with auto-loading holster. Really good, really good helpful weapon perk. Backup plan. Grants reduced charge time and increased handling speed for a short time immediately after swapping to this weapon. This is a unique weapon perk to fusion rifles. So way back in the day, I was actually very keen on backup plan because it was kind of part of my kit for dealing with shotgun apes, and it definitely can be. If you have a fusion rifle with backup plan and you're using it reactively, then yeah, backup plan can be a really good perk because what happens is you see someone charging you, you change to your fusion rifle, and that charge time that it takes for you to fire off your fusion rifle is going to drop significantly, meaning you can really quickly fire out a blast of your fusion rifle with backup plan. The downside to backup plan, because there is a downside, is that it lowers your damage output. There's kind of a weird relationship in Destiny between fusion rifle charge time and fusion rifle damage, which is why if you put on the fusion rifle perk liquid coils, you know, longer charge time but more damage. Accelerated coils, you get a quicker charge time but less damage. So it's the same thing going on with backup plan. If you have a fusion rifle, I think it reduces your damage output down to whatever damage is going on in the rapid fire frame archetype. Now, I've heard that fusion rifles may be getting changed in Season 15 to some degree. Unsure about that. But for right now, I'm not keen on backup plan because it lowers your damage output. So even if someone is charging you down and you quickly try to change to your fusion rifle and put them down, you're not going to be firing the fusion rifle that you normally have developed that muscle memory to, because normally you're going to be like, oh, they're this far away. My fusion rifle does X damage per bolt. I kind of know what my fusion's doing, but when they're charging you, maybe you whiff a bolt because you're whipping out your fusion too quick. You do less damage. You miss one bolt. Maybe that's the amount of damage that you needed to get the one-hit kill. You don't get it, and then they hit you in the head with a chaperone. And on top of that, backup plan is really only going to help you if you're a reactive player, because it's something that you use defensively. People charge you down, you whip out your fusion rifle for the quick charge time, whatever. You can use it proactively, but I think there are much better fusion rifle perks out there for proactive players. Things like Slide Shot Rangefinder firmly planted. Again, this may all change in Season 15, depending on how much fusion rifles get worked on, but more on that later. For right now, I'm not too keen on backup plan. For PvE or PvP, I would probably pass. Bottomless Grief. Increased mag size. When you are the last living member of your fire team, each final blow will refill your magazine. I am not down with Bottomless Grief. I like that you have the bigger mag size no matter what. That's a good buff. But the whole thing with the last living member of a fire team, it's really, really situational. Excuse me. If you're not playing for PvP, this should be a pretty obvious. If you're not playing Trials, this perk will do very little for you, because if you're playing Clash, if you're playing Iron Banner, Control, whatever, you're not going to ever be the last living member of your fire team. It's just not going to happen. The magazine size is great, but if you're interested in that, you can very easily up your mag through a weapon perk in column 2. You can do the backup mag weapon mod. There's a whole bunch of ways you can improve your mag size. You don't need a weapon perk to do that. It might be a waste of a perk. For PvE, again, yeah, sure, magazine size, always a good thing to improve. But you don't want something that only will help you when you're the last living member of your fire team. Yeah, it can save the run or whatever, but you want a weapon perk that is going to benefit you frequently, not when you're under periods of great stress, right? Especially in PvE, when normally you start botching a raid run, what happens? Everybody's like, okay, everybody wipe, because you just have a million raid banners, go do it again, right? So why even bother with Bottomless Grief? There probably could be exceptions for Bottomless Grief. There definitely probably could be. But for right now, for maybe 95% of your weapons, it's not really doing it for me. I wouldn't rank it too highly. Box Breathing. This used to be a really highly praised weapon perk. It was very, very strong for a long time. And but what happens, you know? When Bungie knows that we have a strong weapon perk, it is too strong. We lean on it way too hard. They cut it, right? They take it, they chop it down to size. So we have aiming the weapon for a short period of time without firing will give you bonus range and precision damage that will reset after firing or exiting zoom. So you basically have to hard scope with your weapon for about 1.5 seconds, which is an annoyingly long time. You wouldn't think so, but if you're trying to damage a boss and you're trying to do a bunch of damage quickly, the fact that you have to hard scope that enemy for 1.5 seconds before being able to pull the trigger, that's very annoying. And we like the idea of extra damage. It's great. But the fact is, it goes away after firing one bullet, or if you unzoom your weapon, whichever happens first. So you're only getting extra damage for that one shot, which is not bad if you're a PvE player and you want something to maybe hit champions a little harder, or, you know, if you have a legendary sniper rifle that you use for pumping out boss damage, maybe it would be nice to get that extra big damage on that first shot. But it's very frustrating that you only get the extra damage for that one shot. I think there are other perks on snipers like triple tap, 4th time's the charm, which would probably go much longer for you, because rather than having a stronger shot overall, you're able to pump out damage for longer before needing to reload. Box breathing for PvP there's potential there, and mainly the potential there for box breathing is to better deal with a roaming super. But even then, really questionable for PvP, because again, you have to zoom your weapon for 1.5 seconds. And while you're doing that, you could get absolutely creamed by, you know, a Shadebinder, by a Behemoth Titan, by a Hammer Titan, whoever is charging you down. You don't want to have to sit there and wait for 1.5 seconds for that extra damage output. So I would say definitely potentially viable for PvE, but PvP probably pass. Celerity. You get increased weapon handling and reload speed, and then you gain the following effects while you're the last living member of a fire team. Target acquisition, handling and reload, reduced incoming flinch. Terrific. Celerity kind of reminds me of Bottomless Grief, where I do like that we now have the better handling and reload speed That is always nice to have, especially weapon handling. In PvP, I feel like a lot of people, newer players in PvP, very frequently sleep on weapon handling. When you watch high-level PvP players, they are swapping a lot, especially if you're a shotgun player, going from a primary gunshot into a hot swap for a shotgun to try and get that very easy finish from good range. Handling is going to really help you out there. But again, I don't like the fact that the second part of the perk will only kick in when you're the final living member of a fire team. Usually in PvE, you're just going to wipe and try again. And then in PvP, it's only going to really help you in trials, which not everybody out there plays trials. I play trials. I don't run any weapons that have celerity. I'm almost always passing over that perk for a different primary weapon perk. So I'm going to rank it low for both PvE and PvP. Feel free to disagree, but that is my official ranking. Chain reaction. Every final blow from the weapon will create an elemental damage explosion. This is really, really high tier for PvE. Very high tier. Again, the Salvager's Salvo grenade launcher I mentioned earlier for, I think, Ambitious Assassin is a match made in heaven with chain reaction. Super fun perk. Great for grenade launchers and rocket launchers, which I think actually is the only types of weapon that can roll with that perk. So you fire a grenade or a rocket into a crowd of, red bar enemies. You blow one of them up, and then the body itself, even though you've already made an explosion with your grenade, their dead body turns into another grenade. So you get these scenarios where you're creating little chain reactions, and then half the room is dead in one shot. It's a very, very fun weapon perk for PvE. For PvP, I don't think it's really going to help you. The other team would have to be very, very beyond holding hands. They would have to be attached at the hip in order for you to really benefit from chain reaction in PvP. And besides, if you're firing a rocket launcher in PvP, I mean, you're either going to hit your target or you're not. Again, they would have to be super close. And if they're that close anyway, they're probably going to die from the rocket launcher splash damage. You don't see a lot of people running chain reaction in PvP. Clown Cartridge. Reloading the weapon will randomly overfill it from reserves. People really enjoy this weapon perk for grenade launchers in PvE. Because if you have that ability to get a grenade launcher, not necessarily a breach launcher, we're talking about the power grenade launchers, the drum grenade launchers that have a magazine of like 5 or higher, or whatever. You get a kill, you reload it. Hey, it randomly overflowed the mag. That's great because now you can pump out more grenades, which are good for both killing red bar enemies. They're good for damaging majors, ultras, bosses, all that crap. So Clown Cartridge, definitely a high ranked perk for PvE. Keep an eye on it for power grenade launchers. And for PvP, I don't really see anybody caring about Clown Cartridge. It's not really a thing that people are clawing over to get for a PvP grenade launcher. Because mainly in PvP, you get the power ammo. You get 1 or 2 kills with the power ammo, depending on what weapon you've picked up. And that's kind of it. You don't really have the opportunity to activate Clown Cartridge on a power grenade launcher in PvP. So stick to PvE for Clown Cartridge, ranked well for sure. And moving on to Cluster Bomb. Rockets will spawn cluster bombs upon detonation. If you're a new player, if you don't know what that means, you fire a rocket, it will hit a target and cause the first explosion from the rocket launcher. And then maybe about 8 or 9, I'm not really sure the exact number, somewhere between 7 and 9 small grenades will fly out and further detonate in a circle around wherever your rocket connected and detonated. So the thing that people don't know about cluster bombs is that it is tied, last time I checked anyway, to blast radius. So if you have a big blast radius, the cluster bombs are going to go further out. And if you have a small blast radius on your rocket launcher, the cluster bombs are going to be more tightly knit to wherever that target is. However you cut it, it is a top tier rocket launcher perk. For PvP, you want that rocket launcher with the very high blast radius because your goal there is to shoot a rocket at one Guardian, You get the kill, he explodes, and then the cluster bombs fly out as far as they can. You really want that because, again, people in PvP aren't always going to be running around attached at the hip. It's not going to happen. And if they were, you would have gotten a double kill with that first rocket shot anyway. But they could be 8, 9, 10 meters away, 12 meters away. And if you get that cluster bomb to really spread out far and cover a wide area, it's more likely that you're going to do more damage to other people in that area. So with PvE, it's actually, you want the opposite. If you have a rocket launcher with cluster bombs in PvE, you want that low blast radius, because let's say you're shooting a rocket launcher at a boss or an ultra in a strike. You want to make sure that that boss, that one enemy, is taking all that damage. If you're using your rocket launcher for boss damage, you hit him with that rocket. You don't want the cluster bombs to fly out far and wide. You want to keep them contained because you want all that damage to go right into the boss. So top ranked perk for both PvP and PvE IMO, but you just want that opposite. So you should have one rocket launcher with low blast radius cluster bombs for PvE, and then a different rocket launcher with high blast radius for PvP. Cornered. Oh boy. Okay. Faster charge time or draw time when surrounded by combatants. This is a unique fusion rifle perk. And as of the recording of today's video in Season 14, the only fusion rifle that this can roll on is the Plug 1, or the Adept Plug 1. And I'm probably going to get into an argument with a couple people about this perk because I actually don't like it that much. I know my good buddy Ryan, aka True Vanguard, is a big fan of the cornered perk. I know that he loves his Plug 1. I love my Plug 1. He loves his. His has cornered, and he talks a big game on cornered. He loves it a lot, and that's fine. But when I tested the benefits of cornered in a private lobby, it'll only, first of all, activate when you're within 15 meters of 3 enemies. Okay, so you have to be within 15 meters of 3 people in PvP for the perk to turn on. Now, normally, if you're in PvP and you're within 15 meters of 3 people in the current PvP meta, yeah, you can begin getting kills with your fusion rifle. One of them is going to shotgun you. Like almost 100% guaranteed that one of them is going to have a shotgun, or if they're all primarying you, you're not going to have enough time to kill all 3 of them before they all have team shot you to death. So it's very unlikely, I feel, that the average person is going to get the perk cornered to activate and benefit them multiple times in a game of PvP. Now, aside from that, the benefit to your fusion rifle charge time, when I looked at the footage in my God roll fusion rifle video, the time it benefits your fusion rifle charge time, how much quicker it makes your charge time, you would hope it would be a really big change, right? Well, the last time I checked, it will reduce your fusion rifle charge time by less than 1/3 of a second. Not 1/3 of a second, less than 1/3 of 1 second. And that's, again, you have to be within 15 meters of 3 people. So it's possible that that perk can help you. It offers minimal reduced charge time for your fusion, and you really have to be in the thick of it to get it to even turn on to begin with. If you're talking to me, I would much rather have a different fusion rifle perk. The only problem is that if you look at the Plug 1 fusion rifle options, all the options in column 4 aren't really that exciting. You kind of have to pick cornered by default. Please rest assured, if Bungie ever made an updated loot pool for the Plug 1 fusion rifle, or any fusion rifle that offered cornered, but they instead offered rangefinder, firmly planted, tap the trigger, I would 100 million% take that over cornered every day of the week. True Vanguard, come at me. Counterattack. Blocking an attack immediately after guarding will increase damage for a short duration. Okay, this is a sword-specific perk. It's not bad, mainly, of course, for PvE. This isn't really a perk you would ever think about wielding in PvP. Not that people use swords in PvP anyway. Except a 3-peak, which is going away in Season 15 comp. Thank God. So in PvE, after you block an attack, you get a 50% damage buff for 2 seconds. And that's not bad. You can actually definitely take advantage of that. If you go into a lost sector and you want to quickly liquefy a boss, you bait out the block. Enemies in PvE, they love to do a ground pound, block it, quickly swipe to get back in. You get that 50% damage buff for 2 seconds. It's not bad. I think there are maybe some other perks on swords that people go for more, which we'll go over a little bit later. But Counterattack, definitely not a bad perk for PvE. Danger Zone. The blast radius of the weapon increases when surrounded by combatants, activates within 15 meters of 3 enemies, and will linger for 4 seconds. This is a grenade launcher specific perk. And when I say it'll linger for 4 seconds, what I mean is you go within 15 meters of 3 people, the perk will turn on, and then you have a 4-second window of Danger Zone. This is actually a good perk for PvE. If you have a PvE grenade launcher that you're a fan of, Danger Zone isn't bad, but what you have to be really cautious of is that you don't end up killing yourself. 15 meters isn't that far away. I think the Chaperone can get a one-hit headshot from like 11 or 12 meters, just to give you a visual range of how far away 15 meters is. So, and enemies in PvE, they love to close the gap, right? Those red bar, Hive, Thrall, they love to run at you, you know what I mean? So you can definitely activate Danger Zone to get that better blast radius, which is going to help you clear out waves of enemies a little more efficiently. Just be really careful that you're not killing yourself, okay? It's very important. I think it's a viable weapon perk for sure. If you have a PvE grenade launcher with Danger Zone, go for it. Hope you have fun. Be careful with the activation. Remember that you have more time to take advantage of it than you think. And for PvP, I'm going to say no for the same reason that I said no to Cornered. If you're within 15 meters of 3 people, you're going to get killed. Very, very likely. You could do good damage, but grenade launchers already have the ability to one-hit kill people in PvP anyway, or the way most people use them, you fire a shot, get big damage, swap to a primary weapon, finish them off right there. So it can help you, but I don't think people are really going to take big advantage of Danger Zone in PvP. Demolitionist. Kills with this weapon generate grenade energy. Activating your grenade ability reloads your weapon from reserves. This is a really good perk for both PvP and PvE. I always like weapon perks that are constantly working for you and you don't have to play any differently in order to get them to work for you. So for example, Danger Zone, we just went over, you have to play a tad differently in order to get it to work for you. You have to be within a certain range of multiple enemies. Maybe you like to normally play a little bit further back. You're not comfortable with getting right up in the grill of 3 people to activate a perk. Demolitionist, you don't have to play any differently at all. Those are the best types of weapon perks. You just get a kill with your gun. You just play normally. You should be getting plenty of kills with your weapon in PvE or PvP. And doing that will automatically give you energy for your grenade. I think I wrote down all the info we're taking today, by the way, is from d2gunsmith.com. So I'm relying on their numbers right now. They mentioned that if you have a primary or a power weapon with demo, it'll give you 10% grenade energy back on a kill. And if you have a special weapon, it'll actually give back 20%, which is a fair amount of grenade ability energy. If you have a Guardian and a build and a loadout that is really dependent on grenades, like you have a really strong grenade-heavy loadout, like you're a handheld Supernova Warlock, or you're a Trip Mine Golden Gun Hunter, whatever, Demolitionist can really benefit you. And for the Vault of Glass, there's currently a strategy where when you're damaging Atheon, you're using Demolitionist to automatically reload your grenade launcher if it has demo, because your grenade ability already recharges very quickly when you're fighting Atheon in the damage phase. So you're firing a grenade with your grenade launcher, and then you're throwing an ability grenade, A, to damage Atheon, and B, to automatically reload your grenade launcher. So it's a top tier perk for both PvE and PvP. Fantastic weapon perk. Look for it on your weapons. It's not maybe as sexy as like Kill Clip or whatever, but really good weapon perk. Desperado. This is a lovely weapon perk. The only downside with Desperado is that it can only roll on one weapon. Technically two, but one of them is long since retired. It's a sunset weapon that you can use in PvP, but you can't use it in the up-to-date game types like Iron Banner or Trials, which are dependent on your power level. If you want to play a game type where it's dependent on your power level, you have to roll with the Messenger, which is the only non-sunset weapon currently capable of rolling with Desperado. And what the perk does is after you get a headshot kill, you reload your pulse rifle, and the rate of fire of your weapon goes through the roof. So the Messenger is normally a slow-firing, hard-hitting pulse rifle, because that's kind of the drawback, right? You get to hit really hard, but you know, you're not OP, you have the slow rate of fire. That's how they keep the weapon balanced. But with Desperado, you shed that weakness. So you get the headshot kill, you reload, and now not only do you hit hard, you shoot really, really quick. So it's a really, really good weapon perk. I would say for both PvP and PvE, it's definitely more meta for PvP, because with Desperado, you can send your time to kill straight down through the floor. I mean, the Messenger already has a good time to kill when compared with other primaries in the PvP sandbox, but truly, with Desperado, it achieves one of like the best time to kills in the game. It's very, very good. And even though people don't often think to bring it into PvE, you can, because if you have, you know, a raid or a dungeon or whatever, and you're fighting a lot of low red health enemies, very easy to get a headshot kill, reload your weapon, and then go to town by quickly firing Desperado over and over and over. And the weapon perk you can refresh. So if you get another headshot kill, you reload again, you refresh the timer on Desperado, which is 7 seconds. That's a really long period of time. That's longer than Kill Clip, which is 5. So if you manage to get Desperado activated, just go to town. It's a super rare weapon perk, but it's very, very good. Disruption Break. Break shields with this perk, and you make the target more vulnerable to kinetic damage. So I have a Truth Teller grenade launcher with Disruption Break on it. It can roll on a couple of different types of weapons. It can roll on hand cannons, I believe. I think it can roll on shotguns and stuff like that. It's not limited to grenade launchers, but I really do love it on my grenade launcher, and it's just a really good perk overall. Normally, I would say it's much more viable in PvE, because enemies in PvE aren't as deadly, depending on who you're fighting, right? It's not as time sensitive as PvP, meaning if you're in PvP, you're on the clock. You need to really kill that enemy quickly, because they are going to kill you back very, very fast. Whereas with PvE, you know, the AI is kind of dumb. I mean, of course, a lot of enemies can hit you hard enough to kill you immediately, but they're not, you know, a Boomer Hive Knight is not a Sweat Lord. It's not going to try to quickscope you or anything. You have more time, usually, in PvE to take advantage of something like Disruption Break. But it's a very good perk for PvE, because, again, if you break their shields with a weapon with Disruption Break, now you can change over to your kinetic weapon, and that target is going to take 50% more damage for 5.5 seconds. Very good. And for PvP, it actually works there too. So if you are able to pop an enemy guardian's shields with that gun, they will now take more damage. So that doesn't always happen that way in PvP, because normally if you're shooting, like if I had a bottom dollar hand cannon, which I believe can roll with Disruption Break, I wouldn't intentionally try to break their shields with bottom dollar, and then now that they have no shields, rather than pull the trigger one more time to deliver the kill shot, I'm like, whoa, I'm going to take out my kinetic weapon now. It's like, no, you just fire the trigger one more time and then they're going to die. But with weapons like grenade launchers, where the way people normally use them is you fire off a grenade launcher and then you change to a primary weapon anyway to finish them off, so you don't have to go through the whole long grenade launcher reload time. Disruption Break is great, because you could now maybe finish them with a body shot rather than a headshot. If your teammate is team shooting with you across the map, maybe with a weaker gun like the Mida Multi-Tool or something like that, again, you could make their job of picking off that enemy easier thanks to Disruption Break. So it's not always going to be a top-ranked perk. Most of the time, if you're just shooting them with whatever weapon, just pull the trigger one more time if their shields are already broken and they're dead. But it can be viable on stuff like grenade launchers. Dragonfly. Precision kills create an elemental damage explosion. Elemental damage explosion is based on the weapon's element damage, and it's a 3 meter radius. So Dragonfly is kind of like your go-to PvE crowd clearing perk, right? You get a headshot kill on any low health enemy. Doesn't have to be a low health enemy, but usually it will be. And then you get a little damage explosion. If you got a void weapon, it's going to be a void explosion, whatever. So it's a very straightforward perk. It's going to help you clear the room a little bit better when fighting red health enemies. It's ranked well. I would say that Dragonfly is a good perk. 3 meters is not huge. You can do a lot better, but again, it's good for PvE. What more could you want? For PvP, I think if you are beating your chest proudly about a weapon that you have with Dragonfly, I think you're probably a crazy person. I know a ton of people who I play PvP with, all at very high levels. None of them care at all about having a weapon with Dragonfly. It's a throwaway perk. If you're trying to grind for a PvP weapon and it has Dragonfly, you probably have failed in achieving a god roll. It's low. You're only going to get to reap that extra damage if people are running super hand-holding side by side, which can happen in PvP, but you're probably going to be much better off with a weapon perk that is going to always benefit you. Always. Something like Rangefinder, something like Kill Clip. Not something that you're like, oh, fingers crossed that the enemies are elephant trunking around in territory B. Hope I can get that Dragonfly damage. That doesn't happen. So well ranked for PvE, and who cares for PvP? Dual Loader reloads 2 shells at a time, but reduces reload speed. This is a shotgun-only perk, as far as I know. It's entirely possible I could get a comment in the YouTube reply section where they're saying, oh, it actually rolls on this weapon, you knucklehead. As far as I know, Dual Loader is a shotgun-only perk. And it's not bad. It'll reload your weapon 2 shells at a time. So for PvP, that could be great because you don't want to waste a whole lot of time reloading anyway. Maybe you just hit the reload button one time, pop 2 shells in, and now you're charging off to, B territory or whatever. You don't want to sit around putting shells into your shotgun. The only unfortunate thing about Dual Loader is that it rolls in column 3 or column 4, which really the biggest drawback of the weapon overall. Ideally, you would want to have a different perk for a PvP shotgun in column 3 or column 4. Something like Surplus, something like Opening Shot or Slide Shot or Vorpal Weapon. Any of those would be great. I would take any of those in a heartbeat over Dual Loader. So for PvP, even though it could come in to help you, I would say that if you're grinding for a god roll and your shotgun for PvP comes with Dual Loader, I would keep grinding. For PvE, it depends on what you're looking for in a shotgun. I think that you'd probably be better off, again, with something like Vorpal Weapon or Slide Shot, but eliminating reload time in PvE is very important to a lot of people. If you're trying to damage a ultra or a yellow health enemy from a medium to close range, and you're just doing load, hit the reload button one time in, 2 shells, bam, bam, reload, 2 shells, bam, bam, reload, 2 shells, bam, bam. It can actually be fairly viable. I would put it, the viability for PvE would be significantly higher than for PvP on Dual Loader. Probably going to be different on a case-by-case scenario, but that's what it is. Dynamic Sway Reduction. This is one of the favorite perks of my good friend Cool Guy. Improves accuracy and stability while continuously holding down the trigger. This in PvP is a top tier weapon perk. If you're a new player, if you get a primary weapon with a good time to kill and good base stats, and it has dynamic sway reduction, you're looking pretty good. Usually it will roll on SMGs. So something like the Shayura's Wrath Trials SMG, if you have dynamic sway reduction on that, you are looking good. It's like the longer you hold down the trigger, you're going to get better it's just more likely that you're going to land your shots because your accuracy is getting better, your stability is getting better. And because it's not an instant kill type weapon like a fusion rifle or whatever, you do have to hold the trigger down for an SMG. But it's going to help you pretty much every time you use the perk, right? I mentioned earlier, the best weapon perks for me are weapon perks that are ones that are constantly helping you and you're not playing the game any differently. With Dynamic Sway, you're not playing the game any differently at all. If you're using an SMG, you're going to be holding down the trigger every time no matter what. There's no difference in playstyle, and it's going to benefit you every time that you use the perk. For PvP, I'm going to rank it very highly, but for PvE, it's going to, again, depend on what you're doing, what you're going for in a PvE role. I would say for PvE, I would probably rather focus on something with quicker reload time because, again, PvE, a big factor for dealing a lot of damage is eliminating reload time where you can and pumping out more damage. So I would probably look for maybe a different perk for a PvE SMG. Maybe something like Feeding Frenzy would be ranked a little higher. But for PvP, whew, top tier. Mental Capacitor. Improved weapon stats based on your equipped subclass. So this is kind of a different weapon perk. It's going to benefit you no matter what, depending on what class that you're playing. But you kind of have to think in advance on what class you want to play that can best take advantage of Elemental Capacitor. So I'll go real quickly through each benefit. If you're playing a Solar class, you get a better weapon reload speed. If you're playing an Arc class, you get better weapon handling. If you're playing Void, you get better stability. If you're playing a Stasis class, you get better recoil direction, and you get increased movement speed when ADSing your gun. So all of those benefits could absolutely come into play to help you. I would think that if you were a PvE player, your best bet would either be Arc or Solar. But if you're PvP, it could go pretty much any way, maybe with the exception of Solar. If you're an Arc wielder for PvP, I would like that on a hand cannon or something for the better handling. You can swap into a shotgun quicker for all those scenarios where you want to go from your hand cannon to your shotgun quicker, get ADS maybe a little bit quicker. I would even take Void because stability on a hand cannon is nice, maybe not as nice as range, but it's very important to not ignore stability on your hand cannon. And even Stasis would be fine because you get a better recoil direction and you're moving a little bit quicker when ADSing your weapon. So it's kind of like a moving target junior if you're playing maybe a Revenant Hunter with a weapon with Elemental Capacitor. I'm going to rank this definitely viable for PvP. I would rank it viable for PvP. PvE, maybe, again, depending on what you're going for, but PvP, if you have a good primary weapon with Elemental Capacitor, it can perform very well for PvP. Next up, we have On Guard. On Guard, which is a sword-only perk. It will give you, if you do a quick attack immediately after whipping out your sword, you will do additional damage. I believe, yeah, there we go, 30% damage for 1.5 seconds. The drawback here is the very short window of 1.5 seconds. Obviously, On Guard in PvP is a who cares throwaway perk because enemies will die in PvP to one sword hit anyway. Now, you could make the argument that, hey, it could be good for PvP because if you whip out that sword nice and quick, you can kill a roaming super who requires more damage to kill, which technically true. I'm not going to be the insane person who's going to run up to a Hammer Titan or whatever with an On Guard sword for the extra 30% damage because I'm not a goddamn knucklehead. They'll probably melt me into a million pieces. But yeah, usually if you're killing roaming supers in PvP with a sword, you're just going to go for Vorpal Weapon, right? That's the flat out way better choice because it's more consistent, doesn't have that damage window, you don't have to time it perfectly. PvE, yeah, it's fine, but I think there are other better sword perks we can go over. 30% damage is good, but the short duration is kind of a bummer. Energy Transfer. Guarding while receiving damage generates class ability energy. I'm going to go ahead and say that out of every sword perk there is, I probably care the least about energy transfer. There are scenarios where it can work. I feel like if you're trying to go for something really, really specific, odds are if you're using a weapon with energy transfer, you're only trying to pull off a very specific play, which requires you to always have your ability charged for one way or another. I'm sure some crazy PvE mad scientist can come up with something to get viability out of energy transfer, but for me, I just don't care about it that much. If you're a hunter player, maybe you're trying to block with a sword a lot in PvE to get more dodge ability, because the hunter dodge is a very, very strong class ability. Maybe you're trying to do that to get more camo on the field, block extra damage, get your dodge back quicker, and then you dodge, and now you're camo. So there is potential there, but I wouldn't rank it. I would rank it essentially bottom of the barrel for PvP and very specific builds for PvE. Explosive Head. Arrows explode after a short delay. This is a bow and arrow specific weapon perk. It will give you more damage for PvE. Some people don't know that. You actually get a 12% buff to headshot damage and a 16% damage buff to non-precision damage, which is actually pretty cool. If you're a bow player in PvE, you got a legendary bow with Explosive Head, I think it's definitely worth the play, maybe just for the extra damage per arrow. And unfortunately in PvP, the total damage will remain the same. I don't know a ton of people in PvP who are using bows outside of exotic bows. So if you're using a bow in PvP right now, you're probably doing the Monarch, maybe Tiku's Divination, maybe the Wish Ender in comp or trials to get that wall hacker vision. But yeah, I don't know a lot of people using legendary bows in PvP. And if they are, they're doing that strategy where they're getting a headshot with a bow, hot swap into a hand cannon or a pulse rifle or another primary weapon to finish off the kill. I think it's a good, definitely a good weapon perk for PvE. I sort of wouldn't care for PvP. Maybe they'll come out with a cracked bow for a legendary bow that can do a lot of great stuff, and maybe Explosive Head will do well on it, but for right now, I probably wouldn't care about it for PvP. Explosive Payload. Now, on the other hand, we just went over a bow perk that gives you a mini explosion, and you would think, oh, well, because that perk maybe isn't that wild in PvP, maybe Explosive Payload, the next perk, isn't that wild in PvP. Not true. Explosive Payload in PvP is a very highly ranked perk on primary weapons, especially hand cannons. If you have a hand cannon with Explosive Payload in PvP, you're looking pretty good, and there's two reasons for that. We'll go over the PvE viability in a minute, but for PvP, with Explosive Payload, it does two things. So when you shoot an enemy with a payload hand cannon, you're going to get 2 damage numbers instead of 1. There's going to be a impact damage number of the bullet connecting with the target, and there's going to be a second damage number, which is the explosion damage number. And normally with hand cannons, you only get that 1 damage number at the impact of the bullet. And the further you move away from your target, the lower that impact number is going to go. It's what they call damage fall off, because they don't want you to do the same amount of damage from 8 miles away on the map, right? That wouldn't be fair. So the damage fall off number will go lower and lower and lower the further away you are. But with Explosive Payload, only the impact number on your hand cannon shot will go down. The explosive number, which is the bullet making a boom boom in your enemy's face, that number never goes down. So when you have a hand cannon with Explosive Payload, you are combating the effects of damage drop off better, because the further you go away, yeah, the impact number is going to go down, but that's only half the number. The other number, that boom damage, never goes down. So you're dealing damage more efficiently over a long range. You're not getting affected by damage drop off as much. And the other thing that Payload does for PvP is you're dealing extra visual flinch. So you get hit by the bullet, you get flinched, and then you also have an extra visual flinch thrown in on top of the explosion for like 2 or 3 frames or whatever it is, blowing up your Guardian's HUD. So if you're shooting a Guardian with explosive payload, you're dealing better damage over a long range, and you're potentially making it harder for them to fight back because you are flinching them maybe a tiny bit extra than they normally would. You're disrupting their HUD more than they're used to. And you might know that if you're a new player, if you're in PvP and you're like, wow, I was getting shot with that gun, it felt weird. They might have had payload. So for PvP, explosive payload on a primary weapon, especially a hand cannon, ranked very, very high. And for PvE, it is also a highly ranked weapon perk. I have a scout rifle that I've made a video on. If I remember to, I'll try to put the link in the top right corner of today's video, called the Night Watch, which is a really, really good PvE scout rifle that actually anybody can get. If you go to the quest kiosk at the tower and do the New Light quest, then you can get that Night Watch scout rifle, which will drop with the curated role, which includes explosive payload. And because you're dealing, it's like the explosive head arrow perk that we just went over. You're dealing slightly more damage in PvE with payload. So if we have, in Season 14, we had anti-barrier scout rifle. So because you're doing more damage, you're probably going to break the barrier on a barrier champion a little bit quicker with a payload weapon. And again, you're fighting the effects of damage drop off a little bit better. It's a really, really good weapon perk for both PvE and PvP. If you're a new player, try to get a weapon with explosive payload. Try it out. It is a lot of fun. Eye of the Storm. This weapon becomes more accurate and boosts handling as your health gets lower. This is a tricky perk because the benefits are there. Having the ability, anything you can do to improve your weapon accuracy or your handling, but especially your weapon accuracy in the game, is going to be high ranked or have high potential. The ceiling is high, right? The only downside is that I don't like perks that are only going to help you under a certain criteria, under a certain window of activation. Like I mentioned, I like weapon perks that are working for you all the time, and it never changes depending on how you play. Rangefinder is going to help you every time you ADS the weapon. Tap the trigger is going to help you every time you pull the trigger, right? But Eye of the Storm is only going to help you when you are severely hurt, which kind of unfortunate. The effects are there and they're good, but if you're below 150 HP in PvP, you're kind of a sitting duck. Anything they throw at you, all the enemy has to do is sneeze on you and you will die. So I don't much like it for PvP. You can win a lot of weapon duels though, because if you're in a 1v1 fight with a Guardian and you're hand cannoning each other, your health is going down together at significant chunks at a time. So if you're both dealing similar chunks to each other at a time, but your accuracy is getting better and he is under the effects of Bloom, yeah, you actually have a better shot at winning that 1v1 weapon duel. It is a good weapon perk. I do recommend it, but I really don't like that it will only activate when you are injured. So if you're a veteran player and you're trying to get a handle on that weapon perk, you can keep giving it a try. It's not going to help you every time. Depending on the gun, I would probably go for a different weapon perk. New players, I would advise knowing about Eye of the Storm, but maybe don't lean into it super hard yet. Maybe practice with other more friendly weapon perks in PvP before going with Eye of the Storm. And for PvE, kind of who cares? I mean, yeah, you get the handling and the accuracy, but I've never struggled with losing a duel to a, thrall or whatever, right? So I feel like there are better perks for PvE. Eye of the Storm is usually fairly just a PvP perk. Feeding Frenzy, great perk. Each rapid kill with this weapon progressively increases reload speed for a short time. Feeding Frenzy is good. I'm going to say it's definitely better for PvE, where you can get a bunch of kills in a row very, very easily. You can just carve through waves of red health bar enemies, activate Feeding Frenzy. You get that great reload time. Again, people in PvE really care about making sure you are spending as little time reloading as possible. So Feeding Frenzy, no matter how you cut it, is a top tier weapon perk for PvE. PvP, still pretty good too. If you have it paired with something like, Killing Wind or Kill Clip or Multikill Clip, anything that you want to quickly get activated by reloading, you want to be able to reload quicker. And if you're cutting through waves of people in PvP with a weapon perk like Multi-Kill Clip or Kill Clip, yeah, Feeding Frenzy is going to help you. So I think it's a really good weapon perk for both PvE or PvP. PvP, depending on if you're pairing it together with a extra damage dealing perk. But PvE, it's literally always going to help you. Field Prep. Better ammo reserves, faster reload, stow, and ready speed when you're crouching. Field Prep is pretty much a PvE only perk. I wouldn't really care at all to have that weapon perk on any of my PvP weapons. I just wouldn't care. But for PvE, the better ammo reserves is nice. Now, you could, in theory, just open up your Guardian, check out your chest armor, and maybe put on an armor mod that would give you better ammo reserves, negating the use for field prep. But the thing about that is, if you're putting on an armor mod to give you better ammo on your chest piece, you are therefore ignoring maybe another key armor mod, which could be, sniper resist, which could be concussive dampener. Those perks are really good to have for PvE, and by putting on an ammo mod, you're denying yourself the ability to run with concussive dampener or whatever. So I do think that field prep is a good perk for maybe grenade launchers, or depending on what weapon you got in PvE, it's definitely not a bad perk for PvE. If you have a big drum grenade launcher and you're just emptying the whole thing into a boss with your team, you crouch down, you fire out the whole mag, you reload quicker. It's a good perk for PvE for sure. Firefly. Precision kills with this weapon increase reload speed and cause the target to explode, dealing solar damage to nearby enemies. So this one, if you're a new player, you're going to be like, wait a minute, that kind of sounds like Dragonfly. Well, yeah, they're kind of related to each other. So Dragonfly will do an elemental explosion based on the weapon you've got, whereas Firefly will do a solar explosion. And on top of that, Firefly is going to deal 25% more damage, which is great. So if you're looking for a weapon that can really help you add clear in PvE, it is definitely going to... Firefly is just a really good perk. It's a fan favorite. People love weapons with Firefly. They have for a long time. I don't think right now that enough weapons in the game can even roll with Firefly, but in the future, that could be subject to change. So if we do get more weapons down the line in Season 15, and then later on in the Witch Queen, if you're a new player, you're hearing about that weapon perk Firefly, try to grab it. Very good for PvE. For PvP, I don't care. It's going to fall under that umbrella that we've talked about already, where you're going to just be crossing your fingers that, I really hope that the enemies on the other team are kind of running near each other, which doesn't always happen. I like weapon perks for PvP that will always benefit you. You don't have to cross your fingers or anything like that. So for me, for PvP, that's not going to be Firefly. Firing line. This weapon deals increased precision damage when near 2 or more allies. This is a rare weapon perk. You don't see it much anymore. I feel like weapons in the game had their roles changed in Season 14, where you don't see any firing line at all. But it can potentially roll on snipers, linear fusion rifles, and machine guns. And for PvE, excellent weapon perk. Excellent. If you have a really good damage dealing sniper rifle, you want you and the boys to all get one with firing line. You're going to group up shoulder to shoulder like an old firing squad, and you're just going to lace into whatever raid boss or whatever ultra boss enemy, and you're just going to deal a buttload of damage. It is a great, great, great weapon perk, especially in PvE, as I mentioned, because PvE enemies aren't going to punish you for the most part for standing shoulder to shoulder, right? PvP, bottom of the barrel perk. No one is going to care. There are very rare scenarios. I don't want someone to be like, well, Cammy said, okay, well, look, here's the thing about firing line for PvP. If you have a sniper rifle of a certain archetype, you could, in theory, set up a play where maybe in trials or some other PvP game type, you're trying to get your team huddled near you to activate, firing line, maybe to get more headshot damage on a roaming super, right? I don't want to say that it's a completely bad perk for PvP on the off chance that someone shows me some clip out of left field, but for the most part, I don't care about firing line in PvP. I just absolutely don't care. If I'm trying to deal more, because the sniper is going to kill on one headshot anyway, right? And if you're fighting a roaming super, Vorpal Weapon, that's all it is. So firing line, top shelf for PvE, don't care for PvP. Firmly planted. Better accuracy, stability, and handling when firing while crouched. People sleep on this perk a lot. I have heard rumors that fusion rifles may be adjusted moving into Season 15 and or Witch Queen. I don't know how true that is, but for now, as I'm recording it in Season 14, Firmly Planted is a top tier fusion rifle perk. It is very, very good. I feel like newer players try to avoid Firmly Planted because they have this mental image of you're walking around the map, you're crab walking the whole time, you're just crouching, you're just camping to activate Firmly Planted, you're just crouching and hiding in a corner, when that's kind of not the way that it works, right? You can slide into an engagement, although in Season 15 they are adding extra penalties to sliding repeatedly, which is highly unfortunate, but you can still slide into an engagement to activate Firmly Planted, right? You can slide around a corner with a fusion rifle, charge that bad boy up. You're technically crouched, meaning you are taking advantage of Firmly Planted, which is huge. You get the accuracy buff, stability. Fusion rifles thrive on having good stability, and you get that handling. It's just an insane combination. And it works well on other weapons too. If you have a pulse rifle, like the Stars in Shadow pulse rifle, really slept on weapon that can roll with Firmly Planted, you can get into an engagement, and when you're doing a 1v1 in PvP, you're doing that strafe, you're both strafing back and forth, shooting each other, you can throw in a crouch in the middle of that fight. And by doing that, you're automatically taking advantage of Firmly Planted. Like, you're not planning to just full on duck for the remainder of the fight. You're not going to get into a 1v1 and be like, okay, time to crouch. But when you're doing that strafe duel, you can throw a crouch into your strafe and periodically take advantage of Firmly Planted. You don't just have to hide crouching in a corner somewhere. For PvE, who cares? It doesn't help my reload. It doesn't give me any extra damage output. It doesn't do anything fun like that. Firmly Planted is strictly a PvP perk. If you're a new player, try to tinker with it, especially on fusion rifles. Maybe if you want to throw in the crouch duel for a primary weapon, but it's a PvP, in my opinion, a strong PvP perk. Don't really worry about it for PvE right now. Flash counter. Melee's blocked. This is a sword specific perk, by the way. I want to put that out there. If you block an attack with a sword, then immediately that enemy who tried to attack you that got blocked will become disoriented and they will become weakened. So if you know what the tractor cannon is, it is a weapon that they refer to as a global debuff. I don't know if you guys have seen the Reddit user Courtroom, his document, which is crazy. I'll have to link that down low. But it can list every global debuff in the game, like the Hunter Tether, like the tractor cannon, all that good stuff. So flash counter is a global debuff. So if you block an enemy who is trying to attack you, trying to melee you with a sword, you have now not only made it so that they take more damage from you, they've been global debuffed, meaning that anyone on your team can fly in and also deal extra damage. And it's going to be 20% extra damage. Not bad for a global debuff on the fly. Although I think that if you're trying to get a much easier global debuff to set up, you could just roll with something like the tractor cannon. But it's for a legendary weapon to apply a 4-second 20% global debuff to an enemy, not bad. I would say pair that together on a team with somebody taking advantage of a really hard-hitting exotic power weapon. Your specific strategy might be to activate flash counter and then just rip that dude apart. I feel like maybe moving into Season 15, there are probably going to be other better power weapons to use. to tear people apart. Don't know what that meta is going to be yet, because again, I'm recording this in season 14. But for right now, it's a pretty good PvE perk on a sword. For PvP, doesn't matter. Don't ever care about having a PvP sword. I got to make sure that I flash counter that guy in PvP. It's never going to happen. It's just, don't worry about it. 4th time's the charm. Rapidly landing precision hits will return 2 rounds to the mag. This is a really coveted perk for PvE players on a sniper rifle. Or maybe I think it can also roll on a machine gun. I'm pretty sure it can, but mainly for sniper rifles. If you're a PvE player, you have a sniper rifle, you usually want one of 2 perks on it to deal repeated damage to a raid boss of some type. And that's one of them is going to be 4th time's the charm, and the other one is going to be triple tap. They both essentially do the same thing, but a little bit differently. 4th time's the charm, you land 4 headshots in a row, and the 2 rounds will return to the mag. So you spend 4, but you get 2 back in the mag. So you're, again, extending the duration of how long you can shoot the gun before needing to waste time reloading. Reloading is the enemy of PvE players. They hate to do it. You want to have a long damage string with no reloading. That's usually what people want. 4th time's the charm is a little bit harder to pull off than triple tap. Not really. I mean, because raid bosses, for the most part, don't move too much. But things can be going on. Players can walk in front of you. Red bar enemies can shoot and flinch you. Things can happen. Usually triple tap is a little bit easier to activate because you only need to hit 3 shots rather than 4. But it doesn't really matter. 4th time's the charm. Highly ranked for PvE. If you have a sniper rifle with either triple tap or 4th time's the charm and Vorpal Weapon paired together, you are easy street. You can deal big damage to a boss. So if you're a new player, go through your vault, look for a sniper rifle with 4 times the charm or triple tap and Vorpal, and bring it into PvE and go have fun. Frenzy. Being in combat for an extended period of time will improve weapon damage, handling, and reload until you're, quote, out of combat. So a lot of people are confused about the weapon perk Frenzy when they first read it, because Bungie is really vague with how the perk works. You're like, what does that mean? What does being in combat for an extended period of time mean? How long is that? What does being in combat mean? Do I have to stand next to an enemy? So the way it works is that when you're trying to activate the perk, you have to be in combat for 12 seconds. And being in combat is defined by Bungie as dealing or receiving damage. So if you're taking damage, if you're dealing damage to an enemy, they consider that being in combat. So all you have to do is have a 12-second window of you doing that, and Frenzy will turn on. And when Frenzy is turned on, you get 15% weapon damage. This is a really good perk for PvE. Very, very good. Because usually you're in you're in combat for long periods of time, depending on if you're playing a strike or, raid. You're going to get rushed down by a bunch of red health bar enemies, or there's going to be enemies shooting you long range. Any seasonal activity usually will have you fighting big groups of enemies, and it's not hard at all to be in a situation where you're either taking a little bit of damage or dishing out damage for about 12 seconds to turn on Frenzy on, and then it will remain on as long as you are in combat and you're continually dealing damage. I think there's a 5-second window where as long as so if you stop dealing damage, you stop taking damage. As long as you keep doing damage after you don't let more than 5 seconds go by, Frenzy is going to remain on, meaning you're going to have that permanent 15% damage output buff, which is really good. So absolutely top tier ranked perk for PvE, especially on primary weapons like, I think there's an SMG, there's a Cabal SMG from season 13 that can roll with Frenzy. Really good weapon. For PvP, nobody cares about Frenzy at all. There is no situation. If you're in PvP and the enemy is taking 12 or more seconds of continuous damage to kill you, I want to meet that person. What are they hitting you with? Are they trying to tickle you with a feather? Are they trying to slap you to death with only their pinky? How are they dealing damage to you for 12 seconds and not killing you? Now, there could be a situation, I actually have not tested this. There could be a situation where maybe if you're shooting something like a Titan bubble repeatedly for 12 seconds, maybe you could activate Frenzy, which wouldn't be bad, but it's so unbelievably situational. The optimal time to kill on most hand cannons in PvP right now is 0.87 seconds. You are not very often going to be in a situation where you're fighting for 12 seconds and you're gonna get Frenzy activated. You're gonna either kill the guy and then the timer is gonna get turned off, or you're gonna take damage and you're gonna die. It's not a PvP perk. It's a PvE perk, but a very good PvE perk. Full auto trigger system. Holding down the trigger will fire the weapon at full auto. This is a really straightforward perk, and people, if you're a new player, you would be good to remember that you improve the fire rate of your shotgun only, with full auto. So if you have a shotgun with full auto, you're gonna fire it slightly quicker than you would if you didn't have full auto. There used to be a time in Destiny where full auto would also affect your shotgun's pellet spread. I think that was hurting shotguns too much, and Bungie knew it was hurting shotguns too much, and they decided to kill that perk, or kill that aspect of the perk. So now it will only improve your fire rate on shotguns by 10%. Good weapon perk for PvE. It's totally fine, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to fire their weapon a little quicker? Maybe you're going to damage that ultra a little bit quicker, put them down on the ground a little bit quicker because of the better rate of fire. You're just standing at mid-range, pumping them full of ammo, right? For PvP, it's not a bad perk if you have a shotgun that is a lower damage output shotgun that you maybe need to pull the trigger 2 times to get a kill. It's not bad. I would probably rather roll with something like, oh man, like opening shot, surplus, or, Vorpal Weapon, slide shot. There's a couple perks on a shotgun I would probably rather have before full auto. I don't want to say it is a bad PvP perk for a shotgun. It's not top tier. And for other weapons, like you can get a pulse rifle maybe with full auto. For a pulse rifle or anything else with full auto outside of a shotgun, the only thing I really care about are sidearms. If you are a sidearm user in PvP, full auto can really help you there. That's just kind of the way it is. Like pulling the trigger so quick is, strenuous, no matter how you're doing it. But for a pulse rifle, because you don't have to hit the trigger as much as quickly. You just hit it one time and then the gun will fire the whole burst. You have much more time in between pulling the trigger on a pulse rifle as compared to a sidearm when you're mashing the trigger as hard as you can. So for a sidearm, I do like full auto. For a pulse rifle, I think it's absolutely a waste of a perk. But for a shotgun, definitely try it out for PvE and situational for PvP. Okay, next weapon perk. Full Court. Increases detonation damage as the projectile travels further before exploding. This is a unique perk to grenade launchers. I gotta be kind of careful about Full Court because it's kind of a tricky perk to go over. So when you fire a grenade launcher, there are usually 2 numbers. If you fire a power weapon grenade launcher, there are usually 2 numbers that will appear. One is the kind of the impact detonation so the grenade actually physically hitting your target and making actual contact. There's the impact detonation, and then there's the explosion damage. So that's what those 2 numbers are. Usually the explosion number is going to be slightly higher than the impact number. So Full Court will improve the explosion damage. It is not going to touch the impact damage. And I think so there's a couple people on Reddit who have done deep dives about Full Court. And the weapon damage will begin at about 10 meters away. So in order to actually take advantage of Full Court, you have to be at least 10 meters away. And then it will max out at about 50 meters away with a ceiling of 25% damage. And overall, that's pretty good on paper. I mean, you're looking at a free extra 25% damage to one of your 2 numbers on your grenade launcher. The only problem with Full Court is that you have to be far away for it to work. And I mean, the further away you are from a target, especially in PvE, you're spending a lot of time, because a grenade launcher is not a hit scan weapon, meaning it's not like a sniper rifle. When you fire a sniper, it is a hit scan weapon. The bullet is going to immediately connect with the target that you're aiming at. But a projectile weapon, like a grenade launcher, there is travel time. So the further away you are from your target, the more travel time there is. So even though you're getting an extra 25% potential damage, you got to be 50 meters away. So there's a lot of travel time for your grenade to go from your gun to the target, and things can go wrong. What if the target moves? I don't know. You're just wasting a lot of time, but it is a great perk. I don't know how many grenade launchers right now can actively roll with the full court perk. If I go through my Destiny item manager, I think the Interference is the only grenade launcher that can benefit from full court, but it is a high tier perk in PvE for sure, even though it will only activate if you're far away, and yeah, there's travel time. It's an extra damage output. So who's going to say no to extra damage output? So in the future, maybe in the Witch Queen or in Season 15 or something like that, we could get new grenade launchers that could roll with full court. And if they do, just make sure you keep your eyes open. It's not a perk that anyone rolls with or cares about in PvP. It is an exclusively PvE perk. Genesis. Breaking a combatant shield with this weapon fills its magazine from reserves. Energy weapons regenerate ammo on a hit when matching the damage type to the combatant's shield. Definitely not a bad perk for PvE. PvP, again, there is pretty much nobody I don't even think that Genesis will work in PvP, and no one talks about it ever. It's essentially exclusively a PvE perk. And I've mentioned PvE, reloading is the ultimate enemy. So anything you can do to get around reloading is nice to have in PvE, meaning that automatically Genesis is a welcome, viable perk. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily top tier. I feel like there are a lot of other weapons that are more coveted than a Genesis PvE weapon. Like a sniper with triple tap Vorpal would absolutely probably be more viable than a, Genesis weapon in PvE. But the weapon option, the perk is there. It can give you a lot of interesting weapon options for PvE. It's a viable perk. There you go. Grave Robber. Melee kills reload a portion of this weapon's magazine. Grants ammo for primary ammo weapons. Reloads from reserves for special and heavy ammo weapons. Grave Robber. I don't often care about Grave Robber in PvP at all. It can roll on a whole wide variety of weapon types. And even if I'm running a melee-focused build in PvP, which is rare, I don't often care about my weapon having Grave Robber. Is it Grave Robber? Grave Robber. It's usually a backseat perk. I would much rather have something on my weapon for PvP that can specifically help my gun without relying on me getting up and slapping an enemy in the face. Because we are in a shotgun meta. Grenade launchers and fusion rifles are all very strong. Can you get a melee kill in PvP? Of course, you can get many melee kills, but it's a risky kind of play, and the payoff is just, oh yeah, you reload a portion of your magazine. It's definitely more designed for PvE. It's a PvE perk. And even still, I mean, I'll keep saying it, reloading is something you always want to try and minimize on a good PvE weapon. So Grave Robber, definitely not bad for PvE, but I feel like if you're comparing a weapon perk and the end result is, hey, we can help you reload your gun better, but one activation criteria is just, oh yeah, you get a melee kill in order to reload, and then the other is, oh, you just get a bunch of kills rapidly and reload. So something like Feeding Frenzy or Outlaw, which just requires you to use your weapon the way you would normally do. I would definitely take that over Grave Robber. I keep saying Grave. It's not even a word. Fallout. I would take that over Grave Robber. So it has potential in PvE, but I do think that it gets outperformed by a fair number of other perks right now. Headseeker. Ooh, controversial weapon perk. coming at you. Body shots landed with this weapon increase precision damage for a short time. So I'm going to tell you a story. The first time I ever saw Headseeker, I thought that the way the weapon perk worked, usually you find it on like a weapon like a pulse rifle, although it can roll on burst sidearms. So the way I thought it would work was that if you had a pulse rifle, you would shoot one full pulse rifle burst into the body, and then the next shot of your pulse rifle, the next time you pulled the trigger, if you hit them in the head, you would get extra damage output. That is not the way that Headseeker works. It is contained to the one burst of the trigger pull. So let's say you have a pulse rifle that every time you pull the trigger, you fire a 3-round burst, right? So the way Headseeker works, you want the first bullet of that burst to connect in the body, and then you want the bullets from that burst to continue up into the head. So in a perfect world, you would have one bullet, the first one, hitting the body, and then the next two go up and then hit the enemy in the head. And those two that hit the enemy in the head are going to deal extra damage. So even though it is an extra damage dealing perk, which is nice, it has a really weird, wonky activation criteria. It's not going to do a whole lot. Like, it'll only do about 8% extra damage per bullet, meaning that most of the time you would be much better off anyway if you just straight up aimed for the head and had all 3 bullets connect in the head. Now, there are scenarios on weapons like the Messenger where you can still get a 2-burst kill. It just might make it a little bit easier rather than having to have every single bullet go into your enemy's head. You can get away with having 1 or 2 bullets hit the body to still lock up the 2-shot with Headseeker. It's very situational. I wouldn't say it's a flat-out garbage perk, because on the high-impact pulse rifles, I do like it. It can help you get 2 taps a little bit easier. There's another weapon called the Cold Denial. I like that one with Headseeker too. But pretty much outside of that particular archetype, I don't really care about Headseeker. It's very, very situational. A lot of the times it's going to depend on what resil your enemy is running in PvP, i.e. how much health they have. It can potentially help you lock up a kill on an enemy. Only if they're running 6 resil. Headseeker will help you on this weapon with that level of enemy health. It's very tricky perk. It's very rare that I like it. Again, it's only on that high impact frame of pulse rifle that I really enjoyed. Mainly a PvP perk too. There's not a lot of people talking about the Headseeker PvE meta. So not a complete garbage perk, but not insanely viable. I would say it has potential, but for the most part on PvP, it's usually on the low end of the spectrum. Heating up. Final blows increase accuracy and stability while improving vertical recoil. Heating up is a great perk for PvP. Fantastic weapon perk. If you have any primary or sometimes even a special weapon with heating up, you can take advantage of that a lot. Anything you can do in PvP to improve your weapon accuracy is going to be huge. Very, very helpful. And you don't have to reload after the kill, like Tunnel Vision, which is a similar perk to Heating Up, but you have to reload in order to take advantage of it. But Heating Up will last right after you get a kill, immediately, for 5.5 seconds. That's longer than Kill Clip. 5.5 seconds. And there's actually 2 levels to it. So you can get a 15% accuracy buff and a plus 15 weapon stability buff at level 1. And then if you get another kill, that will bump up to a 30% accuracy buff and a 30 stability buff. I'm actually not sure. I could check right now while recording this video if that perk can even roll on a hand cannon. I think right now I only remember it can roll on a few weapons. Yeah, I can roll on the Null Composure Fusion Rifle, the Borrowed Time SMG, it can roll on Loud Lullaby. Yeah, there you go. The hand cannon and the Survivor's Epitaph. That's a really, really rock solid weapon perk. There are a couple weapons where maybe it's not the best choice just because of the weapon archetype, like the maybe the Dreambreaker SMG, mainly because I just don't care about that archetype right now in Season 14. But on other primary weapons, heating up is just phenomenal. You get that accuracy buff, you get that stability buff. It's much more likely that you're going to really land those shots and drive them home. It's a very forgiving weapon perk, mainly for PvP. Again, PvE is kind of focused on dealing more damage and nullifying reload time and beefing up your mag. There's never really a scenario where you're in a heated 1v1 battle with a Hive Knight and they're going to kill you. They're going to juke and break your ankles immediately and kill you if you don't win the duel or whatever. So heating up is mainly a PvP perk. High impact reserves. Rounds at the bottom of your magazine deal more damage. So the way high impact reserves work is that it will kick in around the 50% area of your mag. So when half of your mag is gone, your weapon magazine, the bottom half of the mag will do more and more damage per shot. Now that usually would sound very, very tempting, especially for PvP. You have to remember that the damage buff given to PvP via high impact reserves is usually much lower than PvE. So for PvE, could definitely be a great perk because usually you're going to spend your entire mag in PvE, deal a little bit of extra damage, reload. You're not really using your weapon very differently with high impact reserves in PvE, excuse me. But because the damage numbers in PvP are so low, it's usually not going to help you very much. It's about like a 4% or a 6% buff, depending on how low in the mag you go. There could be scenarios in PvP where if the enemy is of a certain resilience level, if they have a low resilience, then maybe combined together with high impact reserves, you would have an easier time finishing them off. Maybe with like the palindrome, you could finish them with 2 headshots, 1 body, rather than 3 shots in the head. But it's so situational, it's not going to help you out every time. The fact that you have to go through over half your mag, and it can depend on what resil they're running, and it's not usually a terrific PvP weapon perk. Now, there are weapons like the main ingredient fusion rifle, which, again, recording in Season 14, things could change. So I've heard rumors of for Season 15. Things could change, but the main ingredient is a fusion rifle that can roll with high impact reserves. Now, that wouldn't be bad for PvP because when you spawn in with a fusion rifle, you only have 2 shots in the mag, meaning that even though you've just spawned in, you have already activated high impact reserves, because if your fusion rifle holds 6, and you spawn in with 2, you're already in the bottom half of the magazine. So that extra damage output, which is costing you nothing on your main ingredient fusion rifle, could help you lock up a kill maybe from maybe from like 1 meter away further than normal, or against an enemy with a certain level of resilience. Very situational weapon perk. Nice for PvE, situational for PvP. Probably outperformed by a fair amount of other weapon perks. Hipfire Grip. Improves accuracy, stability, and precision hit targeting when firing from the hip. This is going to be a weapon perk that is really, really dependent on the gun and dependent on your playstyle. I think that there are a few weapons in D2 which are built from the ground up to be good at hip fire. So weapons like the Last Word, weapons like DMT, Dead Man's Tale, weapons like Tommy's Matchbook. Those are all really interesting weapons that were, for one way or another, crafted with hip fire in mind. For legendary weapons, it usually depends on the player. If the player feels like there's a situation where they really enjoy having a hip fire grip weapon, which can be limited to like SMGs or sidearms maybe. I don't know anybody ever who has used a hand cannon specifically with hip fire grip outside of the Last Word. It's very situational, but if I had to rank it, it would probably be low. Now, maybe in the future, Season 15, Witch Queen, or beyond, maybe Bungie could give us a weapon that could take more advantage of hipfire grip. Maybe in the future, we might have a fusion rifle built with the dream of hipfire grip in mind. Maybe they give us the legendary fusion rifle that just performs better when hipfired. I don't know. But for right now, I'm not really looking for hipfire grip. Even in things like a fusion rifle, I know that some people out there claim that they really enjoy hip-firing fusion rifles, which sounds like goddamn heresy to me right now in Season 14. Usually, I like to ADS my fusion rifle to get that tighter spread, have more control over my fusion rifle. So for now, I wouldn't rank it very highly. I think it has a lot of potential to grow in the future. There's not a lot of weapons in the game right now for PvP or especially PvE that I care about having hipfire grip. Impulse Amplifier massively increases projectile velocity, increases reload speed. So I think this is specific to rocket launchers, and it might also be able to roll on a grenade launcher. I'm going to quickly check my Destiny item manager. Seems like I only have it on a rocket launcher right now. But when they say massively increases projectile velocity, it's like, okay, calm down there. It's a 13% buff, which a damage buff would be huge, but it is not a damage buff. It's just going to mildly affect how much quicker your rocket is going to travel through the air. And that sounds nice, the fact that your rocket will arrive at its final destination a little bit quicker. Sure, sounds good on paper, but for PvE, I would much rather have a perk like auto-loading holster, which is going to automatically reload my rocket launcher from reserves when I put it away. Something like that. I've never really been in a dire situation in PvE where oh man, if only that rocket launcher had gotten there 13% faster, I wouldn't have died. It's not that big of a deal. I would rather have, auto loading or field prep or something like that. Maybe for PvP. I don't think that people put a lot of stock into what power weapons. There's not a lot of power weapon micromanaging. If you're using a legendary hand cannon in PvP like the Dire Promise, you're probably using an exotic power weapon like the Wardcliff Coil, or if you're using a exotic primary weapon like Ace of Spades, maybe you'll put a little bit of care into your power weapon. But mainly people don't really go beyond, I just want to have a rocket launcher with cluster bombs, or I just want to have a grenade launcher with proximity detonation. I don't think they really go deep into the impulse amplifier meta. If they really bumped up the projectile velocity, then I could get down on that perk a little bit more. But right now, it sort of, for me, falls under the I kind of don't care category. Iron Gaze. We're now getting into the 3 Iron Banner weapon perks. We have Iron Gaze, which will massively improve weapon target acquisition at the cost of weapon range. Really interesting perk. I remember testing it on a steady hand cannon when it first came out to try and get a feel for how it would perform. It's a very tricky weapon perk. Out of all 3 of the Iron Banner weapon perks, which are Iron Gaze, Iron Grip, and Iron Reach, I'm kind of the most iffy on Iron Gaze because it's nice to have better target acquisition, but sometimes you can really hurt the performance of your weapon overall by tanking the weapon range. So to take the steady hand cannon, for example, it's a 120 RPM hand cannon, which used to be very popular in PvP. Now they're not very popular. But one of the only things they have going for them is very strong range. The fact that you can shoot people from fairly far away and feel comfortable about it. It's kind of like a mini scout rifle. Taking that away for the target acquisition, yeah, that's going to help you a lot at mid-range. If you're at mid-range with steady hand and you're firing off shots, it's going to be very, very sticky with that extra target acquisition. But because you're using a 120 RPM hand cannon, you're probably going to lose at mid-range anyway to a faster firing hand cannon like the Ace of Spades, Dire Promise, Thorn. They're probably all going to smoke you before you get to take advantage of a 120 RPM hand cannon at mid-range. But it's dependent on the gun. So in the future, maybe if there's another weapon that isn't so heavily dependent on the range stat, I would give it a whirl. But for right now, it's Iron Gaze, for me, is kind of an iffy weapon perk for PvP. And it's an Iron Banner perk. It wasn't really designed for PvE, in my opinion. Iron Grip massively improves weapon stability at the cost of reload speed. This is pretty good. I feel like for a lot of weapons, hurting your reload speed in PvP, not that big of a deal. You can go into your gauntlet armor and bump up your reload speed that way. You can, if you're a hunter, you can just dodge and get your ammo back in the mag, which is not really difficult to deal with at all. There's plenty of ways that you can improve your reload speed, but there's not as many ways to improve your weapon stability, right? So depending on your weapon, you could benefit a great deal from Iron Grip, even a hand cannon. I know that people usually like to focus on range. Both range and stability are very important for a hand cannon. So I had before 120 RPM hand cannons got nerfed, I had a steady hand cannon with Iron Grip, and I loved that weapon. That gun put in a ton of work. If there are better weapons released in the future of Iron Banner with Iron Grip, maybe a pulse rifle or something of that nature that could take advantage of Iron Grip, I think that would be a highly ranked weapon perk for me. Again, it's an Iron Banner perk, so not really designed with PvE in mind. And if you wanted to use an Iron Banner weapon perk in PvE, Iron Grip would probably be the worst one because it harms your reload speed, which is not the play in PvE. Iron Reach massively improves weapon range at the cost of weapon stability. Now for this one, again, weapon dependent, but it can yield good results. So if you have a Reese Walker shotgun, you kind of don't care about weapon stability because the whole point of a shotgun is to just, you have huge weapon kick. It kicks like a mule. But if you're close enough, you're going to get the kill in one shot. So who cares about firing a follow-up shot? And your rate of fire is so low on a shotgun anyway that the stability is not really going to affect you. You have time. It's not like a rapid fire gun where your stability is out of control and it's affecting your shot. On a shotgun, Iron Reach on paper is like the perfect perk to put on it because you're getting a little extra range. You're trying to combat that damage drop off. You're trying to make your shot a little more accurate, a little stickier. You don't care about stability. It's a really interesting weapon perk. Now, I wouldn't put it on something like maybe not a pulse rifle or a hand cannon. Unless I had a comfortable amount of stability. It's probably going to depend on the player. Personal preference is going to come into play a lot here. So if your weapon is at a level where even with your stability being harmed, you're comfortable with how it performs, Iron Reach is a excellent perk. There is an SMG in the game called the Multi-Mach CCX SMG. It is a terrific SMG. If they ever buff SMGs higher than what they are right now, it's going to be a god tier weapon. And I love mine with Iron Reach. It really sends this stability through the floor. But even with that low of a number, when I use my Multi-Mach with Iron Reach, I don't feel the negative effects of the low stability. It's going to depend on the player. It's going to depend on the gun. But for, I would say, 9 times out of 10, Iron Reach is a high tier weapon perk. Kickstart. Gain bonus damage and charge rate during a slide after sprinting for a short duration. This is a fusion rifle specific perk, Kickstart. When I first heard about Kickstart, I was really hyped up. I thought it was a really cool sounding weapon perk. I was amped up to get that extra bonus damage and charge through PvP. It's like, oh, more damage. You can kill people from deeper with the fusion rifle. Oh, you can hit harder. Maybe if you miss a bolt from your fusion rifle, it ain't gonna matter that much. But when Kickstart came out, it just was not doing it for me at all. Mainly, it's the activation criteria, which is you have to sprint for at least 1.5 seconds. If you just sprint automatically, if you just burst into a sprint and then immediately slide, it is not going to work, which is a huge bummer. So it's kind of like shoulder charge. And when you're running for that, I know it doesn't seem like that long of a time, but running for 1.5 seconds can, against a shotgun player in PvP, if someone is shooting you with a primary weapon while you're charging them down, 1.5 seconds can feel like an eternity. And if you don't immediately begin charging your fusion rifle as you enter the slide, you lose kickstart. So there could be a scenario where you're charging an enemy, you begin the slide, maybe you're fighting a hunter, and they stompy jump up over your head, right? Well, you need to now stop your charge and turn around and re-aim. And because you stopped charging your gun mid-slide, you've lost the window, the very brief window that you could have taken advantage of kickstart. So the 20% damage factor is cool, and the better charge time also cool, even though it's only a very small, faster charge time. But the activation criteria is way too harsh for me. It's not a perk that I enjoy using for either PvP or PvE, especially for PvE. I don't want to have to run around to deal extra damage for one shot. In PvE, you just kind of want to be in one area and just pump out damage with minimal complication. And for PvP, it just could be so much better. For right now, I don't like kickstart unless they change it or how it works with fusion rifles in the future. I would rate it low. I would rate it low for both. Kill clip. Woo. Okay, we're going from the bottom to the top here. We're going from bottom of barrel to the top of the tower. Kill clip. Reloading after a kill will grant increased weapon damage. This is a top tier perk in PvP. If you're a veteran, you are nodding along with me and your neck is hurting. And if you're a new player, listen up, buddy. You are looking for a primary weapon. It's very important. A primary weapon with kill clip. After you get a kill, you will reload your weapon. And for a 5-second window, you get about a 30% damage buff, which is a big number in PvP. We're not talking high impact reserves, the little 6% damage buff, depending how low in the mag you are. 30% buff for 5 seconds. So basically the play with kill clip is you get a kill and then you reload and you now are on the clock. You have to dish out as much damage as you can. And while that can be helpful in PvE for sure, because anything you can do in PvE to get more damage is nice, depending on the criteria, there's a perk that we'll talk about later called Rampage, which I feel is better suited for dealing extra damage in PvE, because Rampage can activate continuously without you needing to reload. And every time you get a kill, it'll refresh and, yada, yada, yada. But for kill clip, get a kill, have to reload. So labor intensive for PvE because you have to reload a lot and people don't like to reload in PvE. But for PvP, perfect. You are getting a huge buff to the performance of your weapon and it is costing you nothing. You are not playing in a different playstyle. It's not like the weapon perk Cornered where you have to get near 3 people within a certain range or whatever. There's no wonky activation criteria. It's just using your weapon the way you normally would. You get a kill, you reload, and you've activated that 5-second damage window. Kill clip is huge. So many people try to get an SMG, a hand cannon, a pulse rifle, auto rifle, any primary they can get with kill clip is going to crush with the right user in PvP. Now, it's important to know that you can get kill clip on a special weapon. You can get kill clip on a special weapon. It can come on things like, I think it can actually drop on a fusion rifle and sniper rifles and whatnot. Kind of rare, but it can. Now, while that is potentially helpful for PvP, not usually what you want to go for. It's very situational. So think about a sniper rifle. Normally, if you just hit an enemy in the head, they're going to die in one shot anyway in PvP. You don't need the extra damage output factor. There are some sniper rifles that their damage output is so high that under the effect of kill clip, you could get a body shot, a one-hit kill in the body under the effect of kill clip. Those are usually really the only scenarios where kill clip is coveted on a green ammo weapon. Normally, like 99% of the time, you want it on your primary weapon because those are the weapons that can't kill instantly. They need a little bit more help. And Kill Clip, super easy to activate and devastatingly effective. So for PvE, I'm going to rank it as good, but not as viable as something like Rampage, which we can talk about later. If you're a new player, jump ahead to Rampage. But for PvP, God tier, without question, Kill Clip. Killing Wind, also a high-ranked perk for PvP, but for a different reason than Kill Clip. Final blows give you more mobility, more weapon range, and handling for a short duration. So whereas Kill Clip will last for 5 seconds, Killing Wind will last for 6. So it's 1 second longer than Kill Clip, but it doesn't give you the extra damage output. I know a lot of people out there who sleep on Killing Wind because, it doesn't give you extra damage output, so who cares? But the extra weapon range, the extra weapon handling, which is really important in PvP, the movement speed to your Guardian, you can strafe. If you've ever watched a clip, I have a couple God roll videos that you can watch on my channel where we talk about, and I show you a clip of how much quicker you can strafe with Killing Wind activated, and it lasts for 6 seconds, which is pretty good. You can really feel the benefit of a weapon with Killing Wind. It's very, very fun. There are certain weapons in the game where you can actually pair Killing Wind and Kill Clip together, which sometimes can be questionable depending on your reload speed, because Killing Wind activates immediately on a kill, whereas Kill Clip, you have to reload your weapon. So they're kind of, in that way, counterintuitive. If you have one weapon with both those perks, you get a kill, Killing Wind is now activated, but you have to reload to activate Kill Clip. You're wasting time on Killing Wind, but because Killing Wind has that 1 extra second duration, most of the time you'll be fine. And that's a powerful combination right there. If you have a PvP weapon with both Killing Wind and Kill Clip, you get that extra damage output, you get the range, you get the strafe speed, you're going to feel it on your weapon. It's a really, really powerful combo. I rate Killing Wind, and so does Cool Guy and Cammy and pretty much every other PvP player I know. We all rank Killing Wind very highly for primary weapons. Super good perk for PvP. For PvE, don't really care. It's not helping my reload. It's not helping my damage output. Having the ability to out-strafe an enemy in PvP is way more beneficial than needing to. I've never needed to out-strafe a Dreg in PvE. It's not a PvE perk, it's a PvP perk. Lasting Impression. Now this is a PvE perk. Rockets attach on impact and detonate after a delay. Better blast radius and damage overall. Here's the deal with Lasting Impression. If you have a rocket launcher and you shoot it at an enemy, rather than immediately go boom on impact, the Lasting Impression rocket launcher is going to dig into the enemy's skin and just hang out for about 3 seconds. And after that time, it is going to explode. And if it only did that, I would call it interesting, but not good. But the reason that people like it is because it comes with a damage buff, meaning it is automatically viable in PvE. And it's a 20% damage buff, which is pretty good. So because rocket launchers do good damage already, it's already ranked very high for PvE activity. Usually, God roll rocket launchers all have some drop with Lasting Impression because that's what you want. And the nice thing about Lasting Impression that not a lot of people talk about is that if an enemy is right up in your grill, you can carefree point blank them with a rocket launcher because now you have 13 seconds to get away. And the enemy could ground pound you and knock you away. You could just jump back up in the air. You can, Icarus dash backwards. You can Hunter dodge backwards. You have more freedom to shoot a rocket launcher at an enemy point blank. And it's a top tier weapon perk. It does come with the blast radius buff as well, but most people aren't using a Lasting Impression. That's kind of like a cherry on top of the ice cream there. The 20% damage buff from Lasting Impression is usually what people care about for PvE. For PvP, Lasting Impression is a horrible weapon perk. If you're using Lasting Impression in PvP, it means you forgot to change your rocket launcher or you're trolling people. It's one of those two things. The 3 seconds is an eternity in PvP. Even if you were trying to be cute and you know, you're playing Control or Iron Banner and you shoot a rocket onto a territory to keep people off of it, you'd be way better off having a regular rocket launcher. Just detonate on impact, kill some dumb schmuck immediately, get him off your plate, get him out of the way. Nobody is using lasting impression in PvP who isn't trying to meme. Lead from Gold. Picking up heavy ammo grants ammo to this weapon. That's a very straightforward perk. It's good for PvE. It's always nice to have extra ammo in your gun. And if you're picking up heavy ammo and you have a special weapon with lead from gold, hey, more ammo for you. Yeah, straightforward. People like having ammo in PvE. It's nice to have. I think that it could be, depending on the weapon, outranked by maybe a number of other perks. Like if I had a grenade launcher, maybe I would want something else other than lead from gold, depending on my role. My truth teller that has auto loading and disruption break, I would rather have that than lead from gold. But again, dependent on the weapon role. But it's a viable perk for PvE for sure. Not really a PvP weapon perk. Moving target. I changed my attire like magic. Moving target will give you better movement speed and target acquisition when moving while ADSing your weapon. Moving target in PvP is a very, very good weapon perk. It's essentially going to be one of those deals where it's always turned on. There's pretty much no time in a PvP match where moving target will not benefit you. Now, it doesn't have the immediate benefit the way that Kill Clip does. It doesn't have that high ceiling potential, I would say, that a Kill Clip does, where if you get Kill Clip activated, you're just going to cut through the enemy team like a hot knife through butter. You're not going to feel the benefit of moving target all the time, but it is going to be there, and it is going to help you out. You're going to move a little bit better when ADSing your weapon, which is nice, but mainly the benefit is the target acquisition, the extra target acquisition and aim assist, which is always appreciated on your weapon when aiming a weapon. So for PvP, moving target, for me, is unquestionably high tier. It is an incredibly good weapon perk. Pretty much going to be always a godsend on any primary weapon that you have in PvP. Very effective on hand cannons. Super beneficial on hand cannons, which are always going to be a good weapon in Destiny 2 PvP. Unless Bungie hits them really, really hard one day. But for the most part, hand cannons have always been good. For PvE, not really that viable. I don't think that people in PvE are looking for a weapon with moving target. They would probably rather have some other weapon perk that would either give them more damage or a quicker reload or some other benefit like that. Mulligan. Missing a shot has a chance to return ammo directly to the magazine. 20% chance to return one bullet to the mag. Mulligan is a PvE friendly perk. Yeah, it can help you in PvP, but wasn't really designed for PvP. It was a perk that was designed to help you in PvE. So if you miss a shot, there's a 20% chance that you'll get one bullet back to the mag, which is nice. I think that people mainly use this on machine guns, where if you're firing a lot, there's a high chance that with the weapon kicking all over the place and you're shooting out bullets like a goddamn fire hose, that there's a chance that you're probably going to whiff a couple of shots here and there. And that's where Mulligan comes in. You get more bullets into your already deep machine gun mag, and yay, everybody wins. I think there was a time in D2 where if you had a machine gun with Mulligan and armor-piercing rounds paired together, the game would count that as you missing a shot because the armor-piercing round would go through the enemy, and because it's cleanly passing through, the game doesn't register it as a hit. Because it would go through and then hit a wall or a tree or a rock, and the game would go, oh, that's a missed shot. Now, Bungie has tried to patch that in the past. I did check back, I think, in Season 13, and half the time, even though Bungie claimed to have fixed it, it still worked. So currently, I don't know if it still does work. If anyone out there has a machine gun with both Mulligan and armor-piercing rounds, do me a favor, look into that. And if you're telling me it still works, I'll check on it in Season 15. But for right now, Mulligan is a fine perk for PvE with certain weapons. I wouldn't necessarily call it a high tier or god tier perk, but it's viable for PvE. Next, we have Multikill Clip. Reloading grants increased damage based on the number of rapid kills made beforehand. Multikill Clip is a great perk for both PvE and PvP. The reason it's good for PvP is because it's similar to Kill Clip. It's kind of the cousin of Kill Clip. If you have a weapon kill, which you're going to be doing fairly often in PvP if you're not completely terrible, you're going to be getting kills with your weapon. And then you reload after. It happens super naturally. It's not affecting your playstyle any differently, and you get a weapon damage buff. Whereas Kill Clip will give you a damage buff. For just a flat damage buff, there's only one level of Kill Clip. Multi-Kill Clip has 3 different levels. You can have a ×1, a ×2, and a ×3. It depends on how many people you kill before activating the reload animation. So if you kill 3 people, which is the ceiling for Multi-Kill Clip, the damage output potential is 50%, which is very, very high. And that's going to be good for both PvE and PvP. Because for PvE, you could maybe carve through 3 red health enemies and very easily reload. Boom, now you got a 50% damage buff. It's only going to be for a 5-second window, so maybe not as good as Rampage, but still very good. And for PvP, I think most of the time I would prefer Kill Clip because the floor is so good, meaning that you only need to kill 1 person and you get that 30% damage buff, right? Very easy to activate, very generous. For Multi-Kill Clip, you can achieve a 33% damage buff, but you got to kill 2 people instead of 1. But the ceiling potential is higher because if you get that 3rd kill, if you're in a situation where you manage to kill 3 people and then reload, goddamn, watch out other team, because now you have a 5-second window of a 50% damage buff, which is like outrageous. So Multi-Kill Clip, very good for PvP, also very good for PvE. I would still prefer Kill Clip for PvP, but if you have a primary weapon with Multi-Kill Clip, definitely go give it a whirl. No distractions. Aiming this weapon for a short period will reduce flinch. This is a perk that can drop on bows and sniper rifles, and it has a good upside potential, but flinch is a really harsh beast in D2. So for people who mainly use this perk, they try to have it on a sniper rifle. And I think the downside of no distractions is that no matter how hard you try in D2, you're never going to completely be immune to the effects of flinch. And in PvP especially, flinch can be very brutal. Flinch can mean you whiffing a shot on an enemy, and because you whiffed that shot, you could have whiffed the kill shot, and they kill you. If you miss a shot on pretty much any gun, I mean, you're going to be extending your time to kill way more than you want to have to. You never want to extend your time to kill, ever. So the potential for no distractions is there. Having reduced incoming flinch seems nice. But it's just flinch in D2 is so strong. And I feel like for no distractions, it's a good perk, but it's going to depend on the user. For me personally, I would rather have a sniper with, say, snapshot opening shot or snapshot moving target rather than no distractions. But on the other hand, I've talked to people who love to snipe far more than me. And while some of them agree that they don't necessarily care for no distractions, there are other people I know who do care for no distractions. They say, you know, anything I can do to reduce the incoming flinch is going to help me. I just appreciate it. You know, I'm pretty sure I've landed some shots because of no distractions that I would have whiffed otherwise. So it's going to depend on the user, and it's going to depend on your playstyle and your weapon. But for the most part, no distractions is a helpful perk. It's definitely viable for PvP, but it's going to depend on the wielder. One for all. Hitting 3 separate targets will increase damage for a moderate duration of time. One for all is a 100% perk designed for PvE. There is no world at all where you are taking a weapon with one for all into PvP and consistently, keyword being consistently, getting that perk to activate and help you in a game of PvP. It's just not going to happen. The activation criteria is way too strict. You need to hit 3 different targets within 3 seconds of one another. And when you do that, you will be rewarded with a really generous reward of a 35% weapon bonus for 10 seconds. Now, keep in mind, I didn't say you have to kill the target. You just have to shoot 3 different individual targets within 3 seconds of one another and a 35% damage buff for 10 seconds. That's very good. In PvP, as I mentioned, if you're shooting at one target, you are pretty much focused on that target. You want to keep shooting them until they are dead, because if you're in some weird fantasy land where you shoot one guy and you're like, okay, 1 down, time to shoot 2 more, and now you're looking for another target. Oh, there's another guy. That first guy that you shot is going to be like, what the hell? And turn around and smoke you. Even if you have 3 individual targets next to each other, it would be such a wild scenario to activate one for all in PvP. It definitely is possible. I'm not saying that it's impossible to activate one for all in PvP. It's very unlikely. You want weapon perks that are going to help you frequently, and you don't change your playstyle at all. They just benefit you the way that Rangefinder or Kill Clip would. For one for all, you would absolutely be changing your playstyle. No one shoots 3 different people just normally. It's not the way you do. You find one person, shoot, 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 kill, shoot, 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 kill. That's the way you go. So it's a PvE perk, and it's a great perk. If you have a primary weapon or pretty much any weapon with one for all, you're going to be doing great because you're going to tag 3 different people. You get that extremely long activation time. One for all has the 10-second window. That's twice the duration of Kill Clip, which is really, really good. And it's stronger than Kill Clip, 35%. So you're dealing more damage for longer. So absolutely a top tier PvE perk without question. Don't touch it for PvP unless they give a significant buff or rework to that perk. 1-2 punch. Hitting an enemy with every pellet in a shot will increase melee damage for a short duration of time. This perk has had kind of a rocky history. It is a perk unique to shotguns. The goal being you hit every pellet in your shotgun shot, and then you follow up with a punch, and you do big damage with your melee. So you'll do 200% extra damage to minors and majors, and 350% extra damage to ultras. And if you actually can go on YouTube and look up old clips of people really effing up raid bosses with 1-2 punch combined with a hunter gauntlet called the Liar's Handshake, which Bungie had to nerf because the Liar's Handshake would give you a stronger melee, and when compared with 1-2 punch, you put them together, you just pair them up, and you were doing like comically absurd damage to raid bosses. So it's still an interesting perk. It is nowhere near as good as it used to be. It can help you for sure, but I think it's kind of fallen to the wayside in PvE. Usually these days people are not rocking the 1-2 punch combo. There could be a day in the future where maybe that would change and 1-2 punch becomes hilariously effective in the PvE meta again, but for right now, it's viable but not cracked. And in PvP, no one cares. It's a PvE designed perk. If you hit an enemy with every pellet from your shotgun, they're going to die. You don't need to follow up with a melee or something like that. Maybe against a roaming super, you could pull off some kind of funny play with 1-2 punch. There might be some kind of meme potential there, but for the most part, PvP players who are serious about PvP and they're not trying to clown people with meme loadouts usually don't care about 1-2 punch. Opening shot. Improved accuracy and range on the opening shot of your attack. This is a top tier weapon for primary weapons in PvP. Absolutely, unquestionably top tier. People usually like this weapon perk on hand cannons and on sniper rifles. There might be another archetype that I'm forgetting at the moment. Slug shotguns and regular shotguns, actually. Yeah, now that I think about it. Opening shot is very good. You get better accuracy and range. If you're a new player, you can really fall down the rabbit hole learning about the accuracy cone. If you're ever looking at the crosshair of your weapon, go look at a hand cannon. There's a accuracy cone and there is an aim assist cone. They kind of work together to form, a structure for how weapons perform in Destiny. The accuracy cone and the aim assist cone. Usually you want to have a very large aim assist cone and you want to have a tight, petite accuracy cone. That's the dream right there. So with opening shot, you're getting better accuracy and you're getting a further range on the opening shot of your mag. New players might not realize that opening shot goes beyond just the first bullet out of your mag. So if you have a hand cannon with opening shot and you fire that first bullet, yay, you just did the opening shot. You just got opening shot activated. Good job. It's not over. Even if you bleed through the whole mag, you can get more opening shot. As long as you don't shoot the gun for another 3 seconds, you're going to get opening shot to re-perk. So in theory, you could have a hand cannon where every bullet you fire, not only the first one, can take advantage of opening shot. You fire that first shot, wait 3 seconds, fire another shot, wait 3 seconds. Now, you're never going to play like that. But what opening shot translates to in PvP is if you're using a hand cannon, your first shot with opening shot will almost always be a guaranteed headshot. It's very easy to land headshots with opening shot. Now, your follow-up shots, you still got to, aim and put in the work there. But that first shot, it's like a free headshot. Snipers will benefit from it as well. Slug shotguns will greatly benefit from opening shot. So will spread shotguns like the Fellwinter's Lie. They'll benefit from opening shot too. It's just a very consistent, effective weapon perk on both primary weapons and some special weapons. So if you're a new player, try to get a weapon with opening shot. You can go to the kiosk at the tower, the exotic kiosk by the vault, and you can acquire the Fellwinter's Lie, which has a curated roll of opening shot. And you can go into PvP with that and kind of get a feel for how consistent that perk is. It's a PvP perk by design, so PvE players out there usually don't really care about opening shot. Osmosis. Using your grenade ability will change the weapon damage type to match your subclass until you stow it. This is kind of tricky. I mean, it's not a perk that I hear a lot of people talking about, Osmosis. You can do certain things with it. So if you have a kinetic weapon that you really like, and maybe you're in a Nightfall where you want to make sure, like if there's a burn, so if you go into a Nightfall or a Strike or something like that, and there's an arc burn, and you have a kinetic weapon with Osmosis, and you're rocking an arc subclass to take advantage of that arc burn. You throw a grenade. Now you've changed your kinetic weapon damage type to arc temporarily. And now everything that you're shooting is getting hurt extra bad because you're dealing arc with a kinetic weapon and taking advantage of that arc burn. Or it could be a solar burn or a stasis burn or whatever, right? So that is something you can do with Osmosis. It's usually for things of that nature, for PvE. For PvP, nobody really cares about Osmosis. It's not a PvP designed perk. I would say it's viable in PvE, situational, but viable, but I would not call it top tier. Outlaw. Precision kills greatly decrease reload time. And this is a tried and true perk for PvP and to a degree for PvE. It's a very safe, strong baseline perk. Usually if you have a weapon with Outlaw, it's not like automatically going to be a bad roll. It's a very strong weapon perk. I'm kind of struggling with how to describe Outlaw here, but it's just really straightforward. You get a headshot, kill, and then you reload your gun, and your reload time is just cracked through the roof. So people usually traditionally pair it together with something like Kill Clip, with something like Multikill Clip, because you're locking up a kill. If you happen to put them down with a headshot, you're going to have that lightning quick reload speed, and now, boom, you're right on top of your Kill Clip game. So if you're in like 6v6 or Iron Banner in PvP, bam, you get that headshot kill. There's other people still shooting at you, but you want to immediately take advantage of Kill Clip. Outlaw is right there. You reload your gun, blink of an eye, and you're pumping out damage. Not really a sexy weapon perk, but very, very effective. And same thing for PvE. If you have a weapon like that has multi-kill clip, you have the potential to get up to that high 50% damage buff ceiling, and you want to get up to that that buff if you have a weapon with multi-kill clip. And Outlaw is going to be there to help you. You kill 3 red bar enemies, you finish the final one in the head, and you just, bam, reload speed through the roof. It's a very straightforward perk. It's not very flashy. It is unquestionably a high tier for both PvP and PvE. Overflow. Picking up special or heavy ammo will reload this weapon to beyond normal capacity. This is a really fun weapon perk. It's not talked about super often in PvP. I think most PvP players are trying to focus on other weapon perks, but some weapons, like the Palindrome hand cannon, which is very, very good for PvP, can roll with Overflow. And if you get it to activate, it might not help you as much as a hand cannon with a damage dealing perk, but it can help you because hand cannons don't have tremendously deep magazines. Some of them have acceptable magazines. They usually go from a low mag to, I can put up with it. But if you have Overflow and you walk over a brick of green ammo and you have, you know, your Adept Palindrome with Overflow, bam, it's now reloaded to way higher than normal. And you can now dish out hand cannon damage to a large group of enemies in PvP. Maybe you don't have to worry about reloading that much. It's not necessarily a cracked perk, but if it's one of those perks where maybe it rolls in column 3, which is not usually where damage dealing perks are. Usually on a weapon, the extra damage dealing perks will be in column 4, usually. So if you have something like that for column 3, that's not bad. If you have that weapon perk compared to some of the other perks you can get in column 3, I think it's a pretty handy perk to have. Definitely situational, won't help you every time, but super neat when it kicks in. I did just say super neat. And yeah, very viable in PvP for sure. And for PvE, of course, absolutely viable. I'll keep saying it. People in PvE don't like to reload. You like to have a very deep magazine, shell out a bunch of damage, carve through the enemies. You don't want to reload. You just want to spew out damage. And considering how much special or heavy can drop in PvE, ammo is usually dropping fairly frequently. You can get Overflow to activate in PvE a whole bunch very, very easily. So it's a handy perk to have in PvE as well. Pulse Monitor. Automatically reload your mag and improve weapon handling when critically wounded, even when the weapon is stowed. That second part is very key for Pulse Monitor. So you have to remember that if you have a primary weapon with Pulse Monitor and you are critically wounded, meaning you're in like flashing red health, you're significantly damaged, then you could take out your Pulse Monitor weapon and you have that benefit of it's already reloaded now and you get the extra weapon handling. Weapon handling is very key in PvP. But even though weapon handling is key in PvP, and I might disagree with some people, I believe Cool Guy situationally likes Pulse Monitor. I'm not that big on it. It can help you, but I am not keen on weapon perks that only kick in and help you when you are very low on health. I don't like that. Because Pulse Monitor's time to shine is when you have the better handling, when you're automatically reloaded. It's good to go. The weapon wants to fight, but your Guardian doesn't because you're now critically wounded. If you popped back out in PvP to try and make a play, you could get picked off. So even though it can help you in PvP, there are scenarios where it can work. I would much rather have a weapon in PvE with Pulse Monitor, maybe. If you're getting hurt and then, oh, now it's automatically reloaded and I can swap to it quicker, I see more potential in PvE. But even with that potential, I don't think the perk does enough for me to make me feel like I really want it on any of my PvE or PvP weapons. In the future, Bungie could acknowledge that maybe the perk is not very desirable, and they could do something to make it even stronger. If they did something to the reload factor, or not the reload factor, excuse me, if they did something to the damage factor, to the accuracy factor, or even the aim assist factor, like if you got better target acquisition, call me then. But for right now, not super big on Pulse Monitor. Quickdraw. Here's a weapon perk that used to be so strong that Bungie had to kick it in the crotch pretty hard. Weapons can be drawn unbelievably quick. You essentially get a buttload of handling for 1 second. So if you're a new D2 player, the way Quickdraw used to work was that not only would you be able to whip out a weapon with Quickdraw unbelievably fast, but on top of that, you just had a flat, really good handling buff all the time. Like it was just always active. So you could ADS your weapon quickly too. Now, it wasn't as strong as something like Snapshot, which has the best ADS time ever, but it was still good enough where if people had a weapon with Quickdraw, they felt like they were set for life because you have the faster whip out the gun handling speed, you get the quicker, aim down sight speed. It did pretty much everything. And Bungie recognized that that was maybe too strong of one perk to have all that benefit, all that upside. So they changed it. So now the only thing that Quickdraw will do is that it does exactly what it says. Your weapon can be drawn unbelievably fast. If you have a weapon with Quickdraw and you swap to it, you'll whip it out super, super quick. But that handling speed will go away after 1 second or until you ADS the weapon. So essentially, you have the opportunity to whip out a weapon very quickly and then shoot. And that's pretty much it. There's no flat handling buff anymore. People were really mad about it for a while. Even with that heavy nerf, Quickdraw is still a very good weapon perk. If you have a shotgun with Quickdraw, or you have an SMG, or a hand cannon with Quickdraw, it's a really good weapon perk in PvP because the ability to change from one weapon to another quickly, depending on the scenario, can be the difference between you killing somebody and you getting killed. If someone is charging you down with a shotgun or, I don't know, a roaming super or something, and you're damaging them with a primary weapon, but now they're coming within, shotgun range, and they're charging down on you with something powerful, you want to quickly change to your other weapon as soon as you can. And any shotgun with Quickdraw, anything like that is going to really help you lock up that kill before they close the gap too quickly. Or the reverse scenario, if you're trying to fight somebody with a shotgun and maybe you hit them for about half damage, but they're already in the process of Icarus dashing away or Hunter dodging away. Now they're out of your shotgun range. And oh no, you have to change to your primary weapon to finish them off because your shotgun ain't going to finish that kill off. They're too far now. If you have a hand cannon with Quickdraw, you whip that sucker out nice and quick. Bam, you put them down before they can finish you off with whatever they're planning on attacking you with. So Quickdraw is a really good weapon perk. Despite the nerf for PvP, it is top tier. PvE, I would say it is absolutely viable for PvE. I think that people have their weapon rolls for PvE that they would much rather have, depending on the weapon. So like for a grenade launcher, I would rather have, auto loading. For a sniper, I might rather have triple tap. But that doesn't mean that Quickdraw isn't viable for PvE. So a great weapon perk all around. Rampage. Oh, here's a good one. Good old Rampage. Kills with the weapon will temporarily give you improved damage. So if you're a new player, you should think of Rampage as kind of the other side of the coin to Kill Clip. Whereas Kill Clip, you get a kill, and there's a flat damage buff, and you activate it by reloading after a kill. Rampage has 3 different levels, kind of like Multikill Clip, but the difference is that with Rampage, you don't need to reload. Rampage will automatically kickstart the extra damage buff the second that enemy dies. No reloading required. So you might be hearing that and thinking, wow, Rampage sounds better than Kill Clip. You don't have to reload. You don't have to waste time to activate that extra damage. Why would you take Kill Clip in PvP over that? Well, the reason is that Rampage has a shorter duration. I believe Rampage has a 3.5 second duration. And if you have the Rampage spec weapon mod, which is nice, you can take that up to, I think, 4.5. But people don't usually do that for PvP because they would rather have Icarus or they would rather have, a targeting adjuster mod. So usually the base duration of Rampage is 3.5 seconds. And there's a 3 stack level that I mentioned. So the first level is an extra 10% damage. The second level is a 21% damage. And the third level gets you up to Kill Clip level, which is 33% damage. So Rampage is good for PvP. I definitely prefer Kill Clip because you don't need to get 3 kills to ramp up to that 30% level. Rampage, you need to kill 3 people to equal what Kill Clip will give you. Whereas in PvE, it's such a great perk because you can carve through waves of people repeatedly. You can just tear through low red health level enemies. And every time you get a kill with Rampage, the timer, the 3.5 second timer, will refresh. So you can get into situations where you have Rampage activated for a long, long time and you're getting that 30% extra damage. You're just firing away and firing away and firing away with something like an auto rifle or an SMG. It's a very, very good perk for PvE. If you're a new player, just remember that. So Kill Clip usually for PvP and Rampage usually for PvE. So Rampage, top tier for PvE and absolutely viable for PvP. Rangefinder. Aiming this weapon improves the effective range and zoom magnification. Increased projectile velocity when aiming a rocket launcher and a grenade launcher. Rangefinder for PvP is top tier. It is an excellent perk. It is the definition of a perk that is always working for you. I'm going to keep mentioning that. If you're a new player, you want weapon perks that not only help you with good benefits, but they don't have weird, strange activation criteria. You don't want to have a perk that will only benefit you at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, right? It's not helpful. You want a weapon perk that is always going to be turned on, always working, and you don't use your weapon any differently than you normally would. And Rangefinder fits that to a T because it works every time you ADS your weapon. You're getting better range and you're getting better zoom magnification. Now, some people might not like that depending on the gun because they might be worried that it'll interfere with their muscle memory. So if you have a hand cannon that you've used for a long time without Rangefinder, you might be used to a certain level of zoom. And then you start using Rangefinder. Now the zoom is just a hair different by about 10%. And, it feels a little different. The muscle memory is off. Increased projectile velocity when aiming a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher. Rangefinder is a top tier weapon perk for PvP, pretty much across the board. New players might immediately be interested because they hear that, oh, you can fire your rocket or grenade launcher a little bit quicker. That's normally not what people use Rangefinder for. Rangefinder is a perk that will make pretty much any primary weapon that you have a lot better. Depending on how often you use the weapon, there can be situations where players have a hand cannon that they've enjoyed using for a very long time. They really like the feel of the hand cannon. It performs well. Then they get the same hand cannon with a Rangefinder roll. And because you have improved zoom magnification, there's the chance that you could feel a little differently because, hey, I have muscle memory developed with the original hand cannon. Now it feels a little bit different. But for the most part, Rangefinder is pretty much always there to help. And you get more range, meaning you combat the feeling of damage drop-off a little bit better. And you get the extra zoom magnification, which can just help your weapon feel a little bit more accurate, a little bit more sticky. It's just a phenomenal perk. It works great on hand cannons, on any primary weapon, and also fusion rifles. There are some fusion rifles in the game that if you get one to drop with Rangefinder, it'll feel very incredible. Again, I've heard rumors that in Season 15, fusion rifles may be subject to dramatic change, so it's possible that in the future, Rangefinder might not be as good on a fusion rifle, or hey, maybe it could be even better. Not really too sure. But for right now, PvP across the board, you know, SMGs, hand cannons, auto rifles, whatever. Any primary is going to be hard pressed to not benefit under the effects of Rangefinder. It's always working for you. It might not be as cool as Kill Clip or Multikill Clip or whatever, but again, it's the type of weapon perk that is always going to be there to benefit you because the activation criteria is nothing. It's just you ADSing the weapon. You don't have to play any differently. You don't have to be near 3 people within a certain range or whatever. All you have to do is ADS your weapon and the benefits are right there. It is always helping you. For PvE, yeah, I mean, it's still going to benefit your weapon. I feel like in PvE, usually people want to have something like along the lines of damage or a quicker reload or whatever. It's not a bad perk for PvE at all. If I had a PvE weapon with Rangefinder on it, sure, it would perform a little bit better and it would be fine. But normally, people use it for PvP, hardcore. Top tier for PvP and situational and fine for PvE. Rapid hit. Rapid precision hits temporarily increase stability and reload speed. This is a really good perk, again, for PvP. Actually, the more I think about it, also probably fine for PvE, but highly coveted for PvP. I'm saying a lot of PvV, all this stuff. It kind of blends together in your head. Top tier for PvP, fine for PvE. So the more you get headshots with any weapon that you have with rapid hit, you're going to get better stability. You're going to get better reload speed. So in PvP, where people are often using hand cannons or any type of precision weapon for a primary weapon, you're going to benefit a lot from a perk like rapid hit. Hand cannons especially, but you know, other weapons too. If you're a sidearm user and you have a sidearm with rapid hit, that is probably going to be a pretty good role for PvP depending on the archetype of sidearm. But yeah, you're going to get a quicker reload. If you pair together rapid hit with something like Kill Clip, bingo, that's great because you're going to get a faster reload speed into that Kill Clip activation. And while you're shooting the weapon, you're going to get the benefits of the improved stability. The Messenger Pulse Rifle, which is high tier in PvP right now, can roll with rapid hit and either Desperado or even Kill Clip. And both of those combinations are really, really good, especially on a pulse rifle. You want to reload into Kill Clip quicker. You want to reload into Desperado quicker. But the fact that you're also getting stability on top of that, it's really nothing to sneeze at. Not a flashy perk, not a, you know, it's not a Kill Clip, but it's very, very good. It's going to help your weapon performance across the board. And in PvE, not amazing, but I mean, yeah, it can help you reload your weapon quicker, and people are always looking to reload faster in PvE. They get the ability to pump out more damage. They don't get to be slowed down by reloading as much. So rapid hit, I would say thumbs up for PvE, but very high tier for PvP. Next, we come to Recombination. I think this is a weapon perk from the Deepstone Crypt weapons. You don't see it on a whole lot of options these days. Elemental Final Blows increase the damage of this weapon's next shot. Yes, that is definitely a Deepstone Crypt weapon perk. Recombination is not wildly good. It's an interesting perk. So far, I don't think we've really seen a unique weapon to the point that it can really take advantage of Recombination. The whole purpose would be if you had an elemental, you know, primary weapon, like if you have the Deepstone Crypt Raid hand cannon, which is a energy hand cannon. So you get that final blow, and now you've swapped to your Deepstone Crypt kinetic shotgun, and you're pumping up the damage of your next shot, which is not bad, but I feel like in PvE you can do much, much better. in terms of damage output, what you can accomplish with other weapon perks. They can go far beyond the power of Recombination. It's entirely possible that in the future, we are looking at a meta where maybe they introduce a new gun that can, with the right roll, could be able to take advantage of Recombination hardcore. Right now, it's kind of a nice to have perk, but it's not meta defining or crushing in any way. And it just doesn't come into play in PvP. It's such a rare weapon perk. It's not really coveted or sought out at all. It's just kind of nice to have. Reconstruction. The weapon slowly reloads itself over time up to double capacity. This is another Deepstone Crypt raid weapon perk. You can find it a lot on the trusty scout rifle. I have a couple trusties, I think, that feature reconstruction. It's a fairly good perk for PvE. I would say that because, again, I've mentioned about 1,000,000 times by now in PvE, reloading is the enemy. Usually you're trying to get rid of reloading on your special or power weapon, but even on a weapon like a primary weapon, like a scout rifle, chopping off the need to constantly reload your weapon, you're fine by eliminating that weakness. And that's what the trusty can do with reconstruction attached to it. So you just kind of put it away. It doesn't automatically, if it did, that would be really overpowered. If it just automatically, like that, the whole mag was doubled up in 3 seconds, it takes time. You have to put the weapon away, and then over time, it will build your ammo back in the mag, and it will go up and over the normal size, up to double size, which is pretty good, depending on the gun. I wish that perk actually could roll on more weapons, because it could have a lot of really fun potential. Imagine reconstruction on a power weapon or more energy weapons or something like that. I think that would be really interesting. I think it has very high potential for PvE, certainly viable. And for PvP, it's not really something I would care about. I would much rather have a PvP weapon perk that would help me in the moment with either my range or my target acquisition or my stability or my, aim assist, something like that. I would take that over reconstruction. Redirection. I think this is a third. Did they just happen to be in alphabetical order? Redirection is a third Deepstone Crypt raid weapon perk, if I'm remembering correctly. Damaging rank and file combatants will increase damage against more powerful ones. That is definitely a third Deepstone Crypt raid. I'm actually more fascinated that they all appear next to each other in alphabetical order. Odd. I wonder if Bungie planned that. Yeah, it's this is not a great perk. I like the concept of this perk, but no matter how you swing it, there's kind of downside potential, right? It could be good paired with the right weapon. So damaging rank and file combatants will improve damage against more powerful ones. So if you fire shots at a red health bar enemy in PvE and you kill it, you will then have more damage output immediately against a more powerful enemy. So the problem with that is that if I'm using a weapon to kill rank and file combatants, aka red health people, I wouldn't probably use that same weapon to turn around and fight a major, an ultra, whatever. I would probably use a special weapon, even if I just got that damage buff from killing those weaker enemies. I wouldn't probably continue to shoot at an ultra with a 180 RPM Deepstone Crypt raid hand cannon. I would change to a sniper, a grenade launcher, a shotgun. I would change to a power weapon. I would hit it with my super. Yeah, I feel like all that would do much better damage overall. You could pair it together with something like a Wither Horde. Therefore, you could hit the major or the whatever with the Wither Horde, change to a primary weapon, pew, 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 a couple red health guys, and then damage the big boy while Wither Horde is eating away at him. But for the most part, it's not really a weapon perk that I'm wild about. Again, it's a Deepstone Crypt weapon perk, meaning it's fairly rare. It doesn't appear that much in the game, at least not right now. And if it were to appear on a hard-hitting special weapon, like a shotgun or a sniper or anything like that, I feel like you would have a similar problem where, yeah, it would be great to have that extra damage against a big, beefy yellow bar enemy. But the problem is you now need to waste ammo damaging red health bar enemies. So if you had a shotgun with redirection, you'd have to hit multiple red bar enemies to gain that damage buff on the yellow guy when you could have just emptied all the shells in your shotgun into the yellow health bar enemy to begin with. You're kind of wasting valuable green ammo on low-level red health enemies. So I feel like no matter what, the perk kind of has drawbacks to it. Maybe with the right weapon, maybe with the right pairing in the future, we could be in a world where it would be a more desirable weapon perk. But for right now, I'm not really feeling it. And not a thing for PvP at all. There's no weapon perk that would know you. It's a weapon perk designed 100% for PvE, and it doesn't really do a phenomenal job. Relentless Strikes, 3 light attack hits within a short time will give you sword ammo. This is a sword specific perk, and even though it sounds goofy, it is a great perk because when you're hitting an enemy with a sword, you're either going to be doing one of two things, right? You're going to be carving through a bunch of low-level red health enemies. And if you're doing that, you're doing a light attack. So if you're swinging through them, you can get ammo back in your sword. If you're a new player to D2, you might be confused right now. Yeah, swords have ammo. It's a thing. Yeah, it's not like you would think that in a perfect world you would have unlimited sword ammo, but that would create a big problem. So swords have ammo, and being able to get some back for repeatedly light attacking is really cool. And the other scenario that you can have is where you're attacking, rather than the little red health bar guys, one big enemy. Now, in a perfect world, you would want to damage the one big enemy with a power attack, not a light attack. But remember, you can't spam power attacks. I mean, you can, but when you use a power attack, the charge of the sword goes away. And if you hit the enemy with another power attack before your sword energy has completely recharged, you're doing much less damage output. So what happens is you'll do a power attack, and when you're waiting for the sword to recharge for another power attack, you can continue to spam light attacks. And while you're spamming those light attacks, you're getting ammo back with Relentless Strikes. So even though it seems like a silly perk on paper, it's actually very good for PvE if you are a sword player. Not a thing for PvP. Reservoir Burst. When the battery is full, your next burst will deal additional damage and cause enemies to explode on death. Cool perk. This is a fusion rifle only perk. And unfortunately, this perk kind of missed the boat big time, because way back when in Destiny 2, there was such a thing as being able to kind of shoot forever while the game auto-loaded your weapons. Auto-loading weapons were a thing in early D2, depending on how you put together your team, but kind of every team in PvE had the ability to instantly reload weapons. And it's not a thing anymore. So now it's much more difficult to get value out of Reservoir Burst, because it's cool. You get that full mag, fire off a fusion shot, 25% more damage. That's awesome. But if you want to get that back, you got to reload again. You got to keep reloading to keep the magazine like super topped off. And yeah, it's no good. That's labor intensive. So you could find ways to make Reservoir Burst more bearable if you have maybe a lightning quick, if you somehow absolutely pimp out your reload speed to the point where it's just a fraction of a second. And yeah, you got that Reservoir Burst on lock. That would be really cool. But outside of that, not really a thing. It can work, you know, but when you have to work that hard to get a lot of energy out of a perk, it doesn't really become worth it for me. So it's kind of a nice thing to have depending on your fusion rifle, but for the most part, I am not too big on the moment at Reservoir Burst. But if you love fusion rifles and you're going to use a fusion rifle no matter what, if you just think that fusion rifles are great and neat and you like rolling with them and you're in a PvE activity and ammo is dropping aplenty, it's nice to have, and it's not really something you have to worry about if you just have a favorite fusion rifle and you're like, oh, you know what? I'll just take the cherry on top of whenever I have a full mag, extra 25% damage in this strike. If that's your deal, then good for you. But right now, it's not really a perk that I'm crazy about. Rewind Rounds. This is a weapon perk from the Vault of Glass. When this weapon's magazine is empty, it refills from reserves based on the number of hits. This is a really good perk. I like it a lot for PvE. How many times can I say in one video that ideal weapons for PvE are somehow getting around the annoyance of reloading? That is what rewind rounds will do. So you're just pumping shots into an enemy, and then you get to the bottom of the mag. Rather than needing to reload, rewind rounds will turn on, and boom, you got ammo right back in the mag. It's so straightforward. It's so easy. It can be a godsend in those situations where you're in a Grandmaster Nightfall or anything else involving fighting a champion. And we've all been there, right? You're at the bottom of the mag. You need to keep depleting that anti-barrier shield or whatever, and you run out of ammo, you have to reload, and now that you're reloading, the anti-barrier champion is regenerating the barrier, and you're like, damn it, hate it so much. Rewind rounds can help you with that. Terrific perk for PvE. Not really a thing, I don't even know if it can work in PvP, but if it can, it's probably not something that people care about too much. I would rather have moving target or rangefinder, opening shot, any of those perks, which will... I think the value in PvP is trying to land shots and be more accurate, whereas the desired value in PvE is trying to skirt the reloading problem. Shield Disorient. Energy matched shield explosions disorient nearby combatants. This is a good one. It's not, I wouldn't say it's top tier, but I have used it a few times to try and speed run Lost Sectors a little bit quicker. It's one of those perks that's kind of like nice to have, right? It's a nice to have perk. It's not mandatory. I don't think it's top tier, but every now and then you could be in PvE and you shoot some big shielded enemy and then bam, everybody kind of gets disoriented and you're like, oh, that's dope. Like it can help you run through certain PvE activities a little bit quicker, depending on how many shielded enemies there are in that activity. So it can be helpful for PvE, especially when there are a lot of rooms or scenarios where there's a bunch of enemies in a room, you know what I mean? Maybe surrounded with one enemy with a shield or something like that. Any room where there's shielded enemies mixed with a bunch of little red health jabronis, and you get the value of shield disorient. I wouldn't call it top tier though. It's fun to have, but yeah, it's just a neat perk. Not a thing for PvP. PvE only. Slide shot. Sliding will partially reload this weapon's magazine and temporarily boost range and stability. This is a top tier perk for PvP. It's very, very good. The only real weakness of Slide Shot is that it has a 3-second window. And actually, now that I think about it, again, we are recording right now in Season 14, that this is before the upcoming Season 15 slide nerf. In Season 15, Bungie is changing it where if you slide into an engagement, you will be hit with extra incoming weapon flinch and you'll have a stability penalty. It's not something people are looking forward to. We don't know how bad, as of right now, me recording it, it is going to be. If it turns out that the sliding penalty is severe, then Slide Shot will go down definitely in viability. But the really nice thing about Slide Shot is that even though it does boost your range and stability, which can be great for, you know, especially for a hand cannon or any primary weapon that you want to shoot a lot, it can help a lot on grenade launchers and shotguns because they are annoying to reload. I know I mentioned earlier that in PvE, the goal is to avoid reloading, and in PvP, the goal is usually to have a more consistent shot or to do more damage. But certain weapons like shotguns or breach grenade launchers are terrifically annoying to reload no matter what. If you're reloading a hand cannon or a pulse rifle, you just do the one animation, the whole mag goes up. With a shotgun, you got to put one shell in at a time, it takes forever. Breach grenade launcher, you have to manually reload after each shot. It's a pain in the butt. So Slide Shot, if you just slide while moving, you can be on the way from one territory to another in control, and you could just slide. And by the time you get there, hey, your shotgun mag is refilled, and you didn't even need to stop. You didn't even need to break stride. And the ignition code grenade launcher, which if you played in Season 14, really hope you got a roll on the ignition with Slide Shot. If you didn't, actually, there's still time. You can go get one. it's going to stick around until the Witch Queen. You can have a grenade launcher that you can reload in PvP repeatedly just by sliding. Now, again, that could get hurt really badly in Season 15, depending on how hard they hit us with that slide nerf. But yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at right now. A very good weapon perk that has the potential to be hurt a little bit more, but for the most part, unless sliding gets hurt very badly, it's going to remain a top tier weapon perk for PvP and for PvE, I think. Next, we have Slide Ways, which sounds a lot like Slide Shot in both name and description, whereas Slide Shot will reload the magazine and give a boost to range and stability. Slide Ways will give a boost to handling and stability. Now, depending on what you value more on your weapon, handling or range, you could value Slide Ways above or below Slide Shot. It's just another variant of kind of the same weapon perk. But because it's just a variant, I still rank it highly. If you have that, you could reload partially in SMG. See, the unfortunate thing about Slide Ways is that it doesn't really, as far as I remember, appear as much on things like shotguns and grenade launchers, whereas Slide Shot does. That doesn't take away from the strength of the perk, though. Being able to partially reload, it's not a full reload, by the way, a partial reload of your weapon by sliding just repeatedly, it's nice. You can take the hassle out of it a little bit, and if you value a weapon with a lot of handling, which a lot of people do, Slide Ways can be a very good weapon perk. I would say that because Slide Shot appears on weapons that I value more, I'm going to rank Slide Shot above Slide Ways, but Slide Ways is still a very good perk for both PvE and PvP. Snapshot. Snapshot is a good weapon perk. You're going to hear PvP players talk about this a lot if you are a brand new player. Snapshot will give you a faster ADS time to your weapon, meaning ADS stands for aim down sight, if you're not aware. So when you have a weapon with Snapshot on it, you have lightning quick aiming speed, so fast. It'll just be in the blink of an eye. You'll be aiming down the scope of your gun, looking at the enemy. So it can roll on a lot of weapon types. It can roll on hand cannons. It can roll on sniper rifles. It can roll on slug shotguns. Those are usually the 3 weapon categories where it's maybe valued the most, but it can roll on pulse rifles and it can roll everywhere. It's a really good perk. I feel like people value it the most on sniper rifles, followed by slug shotguns, but really any weapon can only benefit from having a much quicker ADS speed. It's kind of the long and short of it. It's not a flashy perk. I keep saying this. It's not kill clip. It's not flashy. It doesn't have that super high ceiling, that high threshold of like, oh, I just cut my time to kill in half or whatever. But no, it's a really reliable weapon perk. And ever since Quickdraw got nerfed, Quickdraw used to give a buff to both weapon takeout speed and ADS speed, and now it will only give you a buff to how quickly you can whip the weapon out. No longer gives that buff to ADS speed. So with that nerf, which has been in play for a while, the viability of Snapshot has gone way up. It's a very handy perk. If you have a primary with Snapshot, you're probably going to like it a lot. For PvE, it's fine. I'm not going to complain if my PvE weapon has Snapshot on it, but not really what you want. In PvP, the extra time shaved off looking down the barrel of your weapon can mean the difference. Those frames can mean the difference between you getting a kill or being killed by another Guardian. Those extra frames in PvE probably are not going to matter as much. So I would rank it a top tier weapon perk for PvP and fine for PvE. Okay, next weapon perk, Sneak Bow. Increases hold time and reload speed and prevents radar pings from shooting while crouched. If you couldn't tell, this is obviously a specific perk to the bow weapon type. And kind of cool on paper if you wanted to do some very unique type of bow build where you're trying to be a little sneaky jerk and, crouching around and playing stealthy. But Destiny 2 PvP doesn't really lend itself to that particular type of playstyle. I imagine someone creeping around in PvP using Sneak Bow is probably about probably about to get clapped. It's an interesting perk. I appreciate the fantasy that Bungie is going for with that perk. I feel like if you want to stay off radar, maybe you could try and run a camo build, which not only is so much easier to pull off, but you have the wide range of weapon variety. You don't have to only use a bow. And I've mentioned it before, I think the only bows really being used in PvP right now are either the Monarch or maybe a legendary bow paired with Ariana's Vow. And that would kind of be a much more weapon swap heavy play style than kind of just creeping around and using Sneak Bow. You could probably make interesting plays with it in 3v3 PvP game types if you really wanted to. But I think you'd probably be much better off with something that isn't Sneak Bow. It's a PvP designed perk, but I don't think it really lends itself to good playing in the current meta. Next perk, Subsistence. Defeating targets partially reloads the magazine from reserves. Not bad. I feel like Subsistence in PvP is okay, depending on the weapon. It's nice to immediately be refunded ammo, especially if you're in like a 6v6 type scenario. There's a bunch of targets in front of you that you want to shoot. You want to clap them all. But, your mag only goes so far, right? In PvE, however, Subsistence is a really good perk. And when paired together with something that can reap you extra damage like Rampage, Subsistence Rampage is an excellent combo for PvE. New players, write that down. Being able to get the extra damage benefit from Rampage, you don't need to reload. Kill Clip, you need to reload. Subsistence, you don't. So you can just keep pumping out damage. Your damage is going to ramp up and up and up, and Subsistence will continually refund you the magazine. Now, you can't shoot forever with Subsistence. Eventually, you will likely need to reload, but anything you can do to keep shooting, to keep pumping out the damage, it's a great perk for helping you clear out red health enemies, for helping you deal with ads. Very high ranked perk for PvE, and not bad for PvP. PvP is more dependent on the weapon. If I had a hand cannon, I probably would want something else, but it's not a bad perk for PvP. Next perk, Surplus. Better handling, reload speed, and stability for each fully charged ability. Meaning, when you're looking at your abilities down on your HUD, you have your class ability, you got your grenade, you got your melee, right? You got it all lined up. For each one of those abilities that is at full charge, your shotgun... See how I automatically went to shotgun in my head? It's because this is a really good perk for shotguns. But whatever weapon you have equipped, shotgun, is going to have better handling, better reload speed, and stability. I shouldn't pair it only with a shotgun. Surplus is a really good weapon perk for PvP. It's top notch. Right now, I associate it with shotguns a lot because it rolls on the Fellwinter. It was the replacement for a few options when Quickdraw got axed from guns like the Fellwinter. So Surplus, really handy. If you have most of your abilities charged, the handling is going to be mwah. It's super, super good. And if you have a weapon that benefits a lot from stability, I don't think that a shotgun benefits from stability, but the extra stability factor, it's going to feel smooth. It's great. I always like having Surplus as an option on a weapon, whether it be, a sniper rifle or whatever. But there's one thing you should know about Surplus if you didn't know, which is that any class that has a double ability, so the Revenant Hunter has 2 shurikens, or if you're a Titan with 2 grenade charges, maybe you're playing the Fist of Havoc class, I think the top one gets 2 grenade charges. Anything you have that lets you have 2 charges of anything, Surplus takes that into account. So you could have an even better performing weapon with a Revenant Hunter with not only all your abilities charged, but both the shurikens charged. And that's really nice for the Revenant class. I think Revenants do very well with weapons with Surplus, but just something to keep in mind. And for PvE, Also pretty good. I mean, it helps improve your handling and reload speed, which is great for PvE. Anything you can do to bump up your reload, definitely desirable. So as long as you're spamming, as long as you're not spamming abilities in PvE too hard, I would rank Surplus a great perk for PvE and a top tier perk for PvP. Surrounded. This weapon gains bonus damage when 3 or more enemies are in close proximity. This is mainly a PvE weapon perk. If you're in PvP and there are 3 enemies near you, odds are you're about to get clapped or you're going to get team shot. Maybe you can put out a fair amount of damage, but it's I don't even actually know if Surrounded would even proc in PvP. I'm not sure. The fact that I don't know is troubling. I think that it probably wouldn't, and even if it did, it wouldn't really be a thing there. It's mainly a PvE weapon perk. I feel like you can get a good use out of Surrounded in PvE depending on your weapon. I think you can roll it on machine guns for sure, and that's absolutely going to help because you're just shredding through ads that much easier in a PvE activity with a heavy machine gun. Also, you can rock it on swords, which is an interesting pick. I don't know why Bungie decided to give a smaller damage output with Surrounded for swords. For other weapons, you get a 30% weapon buff with Surrounded, but for swords, you get a 25% buff. That's not bad. I like having the extra damage output from if you're using a sword. But I think if you're using a sword, you probably have better weapon perks that we've covered or will continue to cover. Yeah, we have... There's better options for swords. I think you can do better than Surrounded. You could probably do Vorpal, which would be just straight up easier. But it's not necessarily a bad perk. I would say it would depend on your weapon. But for the most part, it is a PvE perk. And I would rate it absolutely viable. Definitely a good perk for PvE. Swashbuckler. This weapon gains increased damage from melee kills and kills with this weapon. Here is how Swashbuckler works. You have 5 levels. You have level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's kind of like Kill Clip, where every time, or not Kill Clip, excuse me. It's kind of like Rampage, where every time you get an extra kill, you go up in the tier level from level 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. So 5 is the ceiling. It's about 5-ish to 7%. It jumps up from 5 to 12 to 19 to 26 to 30% at level 5. So the highest you can go is 30%, which you might be bummed about because that's, essentially the same thing as Rampage or Kill Clip. But the nice thing about Swashbuckler is that if you get a melee kill, you will automatically ramp up to the full power of level 5. If you get a weapon kill, you're going to go up 1 level at a time. But if you get that melee kill, you go all the way up to level 5, which is very handy. So I would rank Swashbuckler absolutely a high tier perk for PvE because red health enemies are super easy to melee. And for PvP, it's going to depend on your loadout. It's going to depend on your build. If you're a golden gun hunter and you love the heavy throwing knife, you are super on point with that bad boy, and you have a primary with Swashbuckler, you could do real good things. Same thing if you're a very punchy Titan, or I don't know, you got a Warlock melee build, something like that. Swashbuckler will reward you if you love to melee. I still think that Swashbuckler would probably be outclassed by something like Kill Clip, because all you need to do with Kill Clip, again, is just get a kill with your weapon, which is so easy. Like, everyone does it in PvP. But Swashbuckler is there. Maybe the particular weapon that you really enjoy for PvP, maybe it doesn't roll with a Kill Clip. Maybe it can only roll with Swashbuckler. So if you're a melee happy person, you want to do a melee build for PvP, Swashbuckler is there. I would rank it good for PvP, and very good for PvE. Sympathetic Arsenal, reloading after a final blow, also reloads stowed weapons. This is a perk that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. I think that it has potential, but most people skip over it because it is not something like Rampage. It's not something like Kill Clip. It's not a really hot looking perk. It's just, oh, you reload and then, your weapons get reloaded. Quick reminder, by the way, that in Season 15, we are getting a new armor mod, which will continually reload your weapons over time. So I'm not sure what Sympathetic Arsenal is going to do to compete with that. It seems like the viability in Arsenal is going to be going down across the board. There is still something to be said about getting a kill and then you immediately reload stowed weapons. So if you're using a breach launcher, grenade launcher, meaning you only have one in the mag for the grenade launcher, you could get a headshot kill with a primary weapon, and then bam, you've reloaded your stowed weapons or something like that. So if you didn't have auto loading holster on a breach grenade launcher, there's potential there, but I think it's outclassed by a lot of other weapon perks, and I see the viability going down across the board in Season 15. Tap the Trigger grants a period of short increased stability and accuracy on initial trigger pull. Oh man, it's such a pain that I'm recording this in Season 14. Tap the Trigger, as of right now, is very good. It's a good weapon perk, mainly for auto rifles and for fusion rifles, which I think might be... and for SMGs, which I think are the only 3 real weapon types capable of running with Tap the Trigger. But the improved stability and accuracy right when you hit the trigger, if you look at your HUD on any weapon with Tap the Trigger, you hold the trigger down and it pops up on your HUD right away. It is a very helpful weapon perk. For me, it is top tier without question in PvP for fusion rifles. If you have a fusion rifle, the extra stability, fusion rifles thrive on stability. You need good stability to have a good fusion rifle. I say this knowing that I've heard whispers. I know that tomorrow, I'm recording this on August 19th, by the way. Tomorrow is a weapons-heavy TWAB this week at Bungie, and I've heard rumors that fusion rifles may be getting a big change, unsure. But depending on what happens to fusion rifles, if that is true, Tap the Trigger could be bad all of a sudden, although I would be shocked, very shocked, if Tap the Trigger were to go down in viability. But as of right now, Season 14, if you have an SMG, an auto rifle, especially a fusion rifle for PvP, Tap the Trigger is top tier. If the Plug 1 fusion rifle had the ability to roll Tap the Trigger instead of cornered, without hesitation, I would drop cornered and immediately replace it with Tap the Trigger. For PvE, yeah, it's fine. I think the real viability comes from the instant accuracy and stability, which you want to apply in PvP. Not so much a thing that you want to apply in PvE. Not that it's a bad thing, but absolutely more viable in PvP. Threat Detector. Increased reload, stability, and handling when enemies are in close proximity. This is a great weapon perk for both PvE and PvP. The activation criteria is fairly good. You need to be within 15 meters of just one enemy. Not 2, not 3, just 1. Although you will get more of a buff if there are 2 enemies nearby. So for PvE, the value is there immediately, right? You get better handling, the stability, the reload factor, the fact that you can do that. You're constantly surrounded by enemies in PvE. It's not that big of a deal because a lot of PvE enemies, you're designed to slap around. You're going to kill way more. You're going to frag out hard in PvE, right? Unless you're playing an insanely difficult activity. But it's still a great weapon perk. For PvP, Threat Detector is also excellent depending on the gun. If you're using a gun with Threat Detector in PvP, you want to make sure that it's a gun that you're using consistently within close-ish range, right? So if you have a sidearm with Threat Detector, if you have maybe an SMG with Threat Detector, those are things that would be good within a 15-meter range. You're going to see the benefit on that pretty much all the time. Another thing that Threat Detector is good for, which not a lot of people know about, is because it will show on your HUD that an enemy is near, because you will see Threat Detector appear. If you're rocking the helmet armor perk called Dynamo, which is if you use your class ability near an enemy, you will gain a chunk of super energy. You can use Threat Detector to tell you when people are close enough to you when you can activate Dynamo. So if you're on a map with a lot of hallways, corridors, whatever, you don't need line of sight. If they are 15 meters on the other side of a wall and you see threat detector on your HUD, you can drop whatever class ability. If you have Dynamo turned on, you will gain a chunk of super energy. So threat detector can help you determine when to trigger Dynamo outside of its already very good ability to improve your stability and your handling and your reload. So yeah, a highly ranked perk for both PvE and PvP. Next up, we have Thresh. Killing combatants with this weapon will generate a small amount of super energy. Now, this is really a small amount of super energy. According to d2gunsmith.com, the number is 1% of your super energy for PvP, 1%. So it's going to be, when I did my weapon testing on Thresh so long ago, the better yield is going to come from if you have low intellect. So if you have a high intellect, you're going to get a much smaller, chunkier super. If you have a much lower intellect, you're going to get a fairly good chunk of super. So no matter what you're running, even if you're running tier 10 intellect, being able to get your super in PvP is even a couple seconds before the enemy can be huge in game types like trials, in comp, whatever. Being able to get your super that much quicker. It might not seem like a lot on paper. Oh, I got my super 10 seconds before the other guy. That could mean the difference between a round won and a round lost in trials. So Thresh absolutely can be a great weapon perk for PvP. Not as immediately flashy as Kill Clip, but your super is something you always want to keep in mind. Supers in Destiny 2 are very strong. They're like round winners. You can always usually push with them and feel relatively confident. So Thresh constantly feeding into that is definitely a good perk to have. And good for PvE too. I mean, supers in PvE are fantastic. You got the Titan Bubble, the Warlock Well, even Chaos Reach. It's just great to be able to use your super more in PvE. So Thresh is just a fantastic perk. I rate it highly for both PvP and PvE. Timed Payload. Projectiles attached to enemies explode after a short delay. So timed payload is a really interesting perk. It's kind of like explosive payload, but with a delay. So with explosive payload, you shoot the guy and you have two damage numbers. You have the impact from the bullet, and then the second damage number is the explosive payload damage number. And it's the same thing with timed payload, exact same thing. The only difference is that timed payload happens half a second later. So kind of a weird perk, and you do get a damage buff in PvE. In PvP, there is no damage buff, but still timed payload is a high-ranked perk for PvE and PvP because, especially in PvP, you're fighting the effects of damage drop-off the same way I mentioned with explosive payload, because that second damage number, not the impact one from the bullet connecting, the second damage number from the explosive payload, from timed payload, that number never goes down, no matter how far away you are from your target. So the fact that it's a consistent set damage number, you're able to more consistently deal good damage from far away. So you're fighting the effects of damage drop-off that much better. And for that reason alone, it's highly ranked in PvP. The only unfortunate thing is that delay, that 0.5 second delay. I would probably rather have explosive payload. There are situations in PvP where, because the explosion happens half a second later, you're kind of effing with the enemy's rhythm. It's like a second flinch factor thrown in slightly later. Now, because there is a half-second delay, that could potentially get you killed in PvP. You could turn what would be a kill into a trade, because half your damage is coming half a second later. But there is the factor of you hitting them and they will get an extra flinch, an extra visual flinch from timed payload. I would personally take explosive payload over timed payload, but still, you're fighting the effective damage drop-off. In PvE, you're dealing more damage, and in PvP, you're potentially dealing more visual flinch to a target. So I would rank timed payload still highly, despite being a weird perk. Tireless Blade. Sword ammo granted for every other powered sword kill. sword only perk, Tireless Blade, I would rank it not as good as I would rank the perk, which I'm blanking on the name, the one where you attack more, and Relentless Strikes, where you get ammo back on light attacks rather than a powered sword kill. You don't want to be running around the map spamming powered sword kills to get ammo back. You're already draining a fair amount of ammo by doing a powered sword swing. So yeah, it's nice to be able to get ammo back. I don't rank it as good as Relentless. Situational, I don't think it's an option you would probably want right now on your sword. Tracking module adds tracking capability to rockets, be able to lock onto your targets when ADSing a rocket launcher. This is a pretty cool perk. I would rank it high for PvE, provided you are using a rocket launcher that is not a member of the Precision Frame rocket family, because every member of the Precision Frame rocket family already has the inherent built-in ability to auto-track. So that's something pretty gosh darn neat. But for other rocket launchers that aren't members of the Precision Frame family, being able to lock onto a target is really cool. I feel like people want this to be a good thing in PvP. This is actually bottom of the barrel for me in PvP. I do not want to lock on and track people in PvP with a rocket launcher. Movement right now in PvP is quick. You have Top Tree Dawnblade, floofing around and Icarus dashing. You have Hunters dodging. You have Bakris Hunter teleporting. You have Behemoth melees with their melee ability. You got, Shatter Dive. People are mobile in PvP. They're very mobile. And even if they were just sprinting, it would be relatively tricky to track onto somebody in PvP with a tracking rocket launcher. It's not usually done. The play with the rocket launcher is you just get really high and shoot, you shoot straight down for a big blast radius. You hit the floor. Don't aim at the Guardian, aim at their feet, right? Because you want that blast radius you want them to die from the splash damage. Or if you're not in the air and there's someone shooting at you, you aim at the wall next to them or the wall behind them or their feet again. You want the splash damage to take that. You're not going to fire a tracking rocket at people in PvP unless you're using maybe like the Truth rocket, but that's way better. So I would rank tracking module good. For PvE, it's kind of a shame that it can compete with other rocket perks that are very good. Like I would rather have auto-loading holster on my rocket launcher, probably, because in PvE, enemies don't move very much, but it is cool if you're trying to track an enemy that's annoying to hit, like a Hive Wizard. They have that really thin frame and they kind of drift, they float around, they're annoying to hit. It can be fun for PvE, but it's a shame that it has competition in column 3, usually. Usually it has pretty good competition with other rocket perks, and I rank it poorly for PvP. Don't use it in PvP. Next up, we have Trench Barrel. After a successful melee hit, this weapon gains increased damage, handling, and reload speed for a short duration, or until 3 shots are fired. Those final 6 words are so brutal. Pre-nerf Trench Barrel was so good. There was no limit on it was just the timer, so you could activate Trench Barrel and then you could just let the damage fly hardcore for a short window of time. But Bungie realized that was way too strong and they changed it to so you either have a timer or until you fire off 3 shots. It's still a good perk for PvE, being able to deal extra damage with your shotgun. It's pretty cool. It's not bad. It's really good for burst damage. If you have a shotgun that you really like and you want to damage it, I don't know, a champion or a major or something like that, it'll deal really good damage. But that 3-shot fire limit it's a killer. That's a big killer. I would say it's good for PvE, nowhere near as good as it used to be, but good for PvE. And for PvP, I don't think Trench Barrel is on any popular PvP shotgun archetype right now. If it were, that would be an interesting conversation. But right now, I think Trench Barrel can only roll on the lighter, like the lightweight frames maybe, or is it the rapid fire? They roll on shotguns that don't hit as hard. If we ever got Trench Barrel on something like an aggressive frame shotgun. Like that'd be a very interesting day for PvP. But until that happens, I'm only going to really think about it for PvE, and I'm not going to think about it that much. Triple tap. Rapidly landing precision hits will return 1 round to the magazine. This is a top tier PvE weapon perk. If you have a sniper rifle with triple tap paired together with Vorpal Weapon, you are going to be your raid team's best friend, depending on the raid, depending on the encounter. But you can deal good damage repeatedly because every time you get that 3 precision hit, you're getting 1 round back to the magazine. That is great. You are fighting your ultimate enemy in PvE, which is needing to reload your goddamn weapon. So you're able to damage more and more and more until needing to reload. You're ideally pumping out a buttload of damage, maybe with like a boss spec, Vorpal Weapon, something like that. Triple tap, really, really good for PvE. And not even on a sniper, even primary weapons or something like that. Anything really in PvE can benefit from triple tap. You just see it more commonly on sniper rifles. For PvP, I don't care about triple tap. Is it nice to get 1 round back to the magazine? Sure, but it's not a game changer by any means at all. I would rather have the ability to land shots easier or do more damage or make me move quicker or something like that in PvP. It's triple tap is absolutely an afterthought in PvP. It's mainly a PvE perk. Tunnel Vision. Tunnel Vision is a relatively new perk where if you get a kill and then you reload your weapon, you gain improved target acquisition and weapon ADS speed for a 5-second window, which is pretty darn good. Anytime you're able to improve your weapon's accuracy and or aim assist, yeah, huge. That can literally mean the difference between getting outgunned and living through a 1v1 duel. Like you can better shoot your weapon, you can better connect with your shots for that 5-second window. Yeah, you're not going to get any extra damage, but could mean the difference between living and dying. And for that reason alone, I think it is a top tier weapon perk on primary weapons for PvP. And for PvE, it's not really, you don't care about that. You don't really care a whole lot about aim assists in PvE. It's not really a thing that people care about. Mainly a PvP perk. Under Pressure. Improved stability and accuracy as the magazine gets lower. This is a right now, again, I will repeat, I am recording today's video in Season 14. We don't know what the future holds for other weapons, but for right now, in Season 14, Under Pressure is a god tier perk for fusion rifles. It is borderline mandatory, depending on your fusion rifle role. For the Adept Plug 1, if you, in my opinion, if you want to use the Adept Plug 1 in PvP right now in Season 14, and you don't have Under Pressure on your gun, reroll, buddy. Get back in the GM Nightfall and keep going. It's a terrific weapon perk. Fusion rifles thrive on stability. They need to have good stability to have that very tight bolt spread. They need a tight bolt spread, and Under Pressure gives that to you immediately because you spawn into PvP with 2 in the mag right now. And if your fusion rifle mag is at least 4, which I'm pretty sure all of them are, you are going to spawn in PvP with Under Pressure already activated. So it's a unquestionably god roll fusion rifle perk. It still does well on other weapon types too. It's much more valuable on fusion rifles though, specifically because you spawn in with 2 shots, meaning you don't have to work at all to get the perk to turn on. If you have like a hand cannon or something, yeah, you got to fire off a few shots. Questionable. I don't know if I would want to intentionally lower my mag on my hand cannon to get the benefits of Under Pressure, but having them kick in later is kind of cool. But again, for fusion rifle right now in Season 14, hopefully it will remain the same in Season 15. That remains to be seen. I'll do weapon testing on that depending on what happens to weapons in Season 15. But for right now, god tier perk, fusion rifle. Underdog. This weapon gains a boost to reload speed as your health bar gets lower. Oh boy. Okay, Underdog falls under that umbrella of a weapon perk that is like, yay, cool. I like the benefit for PvE anyway. I don't like that I have to be hurt. For PvP, Underdog, just who cares, man? Better reload speed when hurt. I cannot imagine a perk I could care less about in PvP than Underdog. PvE, it's fine. I mean, you're more likely to live with low health in PvE. If you're in Crucible and you have low health and you poke out, you're going to get picked immediately. But in PvE, I mean, you could be getting chased by Thrall, you could be getting shot by a weak Dreg. Your ability to live at low health is much easier to do in PvE. So it could be a helpful PvE perk. I would much rather have something like Outlaw, like Feeding Frenzy, something that isn't tied to me being injured to work. So I actually rank Underdog kind of low. Pretty goddamn low in both PvE and PvP right now. Unrelenting. Rapidly defeating targets will trigger health regen. So the way this works is that it's kind of like a point system. So if you hit 3 points, you will begin to regenerate health. So Guardians and powerful combatants count as 2, meaning if you just kill 2 Guardians in PvP, Unrelenting will activate. And if you're in PvE, I think that Ultras and bosses are 3, and red health enemies, I believe, are 1. So you have a fair a window of time. I think you have 8 seconds to get all 3 kills, or however many kills you need, to activate Unrelenting. And when you get it activated, not bad. I would rank it definitely higher in PvE than PvP, because you can become that much more tanky in PvE. It's already relatively hard for enemies to take you down. I feel like some people don't like Unrelenting because rather than a defensive perk to keep you alive, in PvE, it's usually about what you can do to maximize your damage potential. How much damage can I dish out? I feel like offense is way heavily favored in PvE, but still, if you're looking for a perk to help keep you alive, Unrelenting is good. It's not a bad perk. And for PvP, yeah, I can help. I think it would probably be a better perk for 6v6 rather than 3v3, because by the time, I mean, depending on the situation, could be situational, but being able to get your health triggered immediately after killing 2 Guardians, it's not bad, right? Nothing to scoff at. I don't think I would rate it high tier for PvP. I would probably rather have something like, for a primary weapon, something like Rangefinder or Opening Shot or Tap the Trigger, Kill Clip, something like that. I don't know, but it's not a bad perk. Vorpal Weapon. This is a incredibly good perk. Incredibly good for PvE. This is a god tier PvE perk, hands down. And for PvP, maybe not god tier, but I would rank it very high tier. So Vorpal Weapon is going to give better damage against bosses, vehicles, and guardians with their super active. So for PvE, the upside is immediately there. You are literally getting free damage against certain enemies in PvE with no difference in your playstyle. No activation criteria other than point the gun at them and shoot them. And there's no limitation. It's not like boxed breathing where you only get the damage for 1 shot or anything like that. It's just a damage hose. Vorpal Weapon in PvE is just fantastic. No gun is hurt, I feel, from having Vorpal Weapon in PvE. Now in PvP, the ability to shut a Guardian out of their roaming super, pretty damn handy. Vorpal Weapon will help you achieve that. It's kind of a risky play, but you don't have to do the whole job with your primary weapon or whatever weapon you have. You can run Vorpal on a primary or on a special weapon. It's going to help you either way. If you have Vorpal on a primary, you can do a little damage with the primary, and then if they're getting closer to you, you can hot swap to a special weapon, finish them off. Or if you just have a special weapon with Vorpal Weapon, you're going to hit them that much harder out of their roaming super. It is a really, really valuable weapon perk. It rolls on a lot of weapons these days, and just a fantastic perk. I'm going to rank it slightly higher for PvE, but It's just still phenomenal across the board. Very good weapon perk. Next up, we have Wellspring. Kills with this weapon generate ability energy. This energy is divided between your uncharged abilities. So with Wellspring, every time you get a weapon kill, the game is going to look at what abilities you have that are on cooldown. What abilities are in the middle of charging, and it's going to immediately feed energy across all of them evenly. So if you have only your grenade is on cooldown, everything else is fully charged, and you get a kill with Wellspring, you're going to get a big chunk to your grenade right away, big chunk. But if you have all 3 of your abilities are on cooldown and you get a kill with Wellspring, it's going to evenly distribute the ability energy among all of your uncharged abilities. Great weapon perk. It might not be very flashy. It might not be as good as other perks, but if you're running a loadout that is very dependent on your abilities, like if you're a Revenant Hunter and you have no soul and you're Shatter Dive glaciernating people and you want to do that more frequently, you could spec into Wellspring. It's a very helpful weapon perk. The only thing it has not going for it is that it's not some of the other perks that we've gone over for PvP that are very good. Wellspring in PvE is fine. It's fine depending on how heavily you're leaning on your abilities, but I would rank it probably a little bit higher for PvP if you're running a build in PvP that is more dependent on your abilities. Whirlwind Blade. Rapid sword strikes increase the weapon's damage for a short duration. Guarding also will end the effect. Normally the duration is about 3 seconds. Whirlwind Blade is pretty good. It's a great weapon perk if you're trying to do burst damage or repeated damage to just one big target. So if you're fighting a yellow health bar enemy or whatever, and you want to just deal more damage, again, normally the play with a sword is you hit them with a power strike, with a heavy strike, and you're not going to do that repeatedly. You're going to wait for your power strike or your heavy strike to regenerate its ability energy. And while you're waiting for it to do that, you're whacking away with light swings. And if you have a sword with Whirlwind Blade, all those whacks that you're doing with the light swipes, they're going to add up. You're going to do more and more damage. The Falling Guillotine sword with Whirlwind Blade is really good. It's an old sword. It's been around for a while. But that doesn't change the fact that Whirlwind Blade for PvE is just a fantastic perk. If you're a sword user, you probably want Whirlwind Blade. For PvP, don't worry about it. Finally, we come to Zen Moment. This is an interesting perk. And by interesting, I mean bad. It's a bad perk. The weapon reads, causing damage with the weapon will increase its stability. That is kind of not true. That's kind of not how the weapon works. I think what really happens with the weapon is that when you're firing a weapon with Zen Moment, you're actually removing the reticle bounce from the weapon, and you're lowering the weapon shake, the visual weapon shake. It's more of a perk that helps you visually rather than directly contributing to the stability of the perk. So the wording of the perk is misleading. It's very misleading. It's only going to reduce bounce and weapon shake. I feel that Zen Moment is more noticeable if you play controller. If you play M and K, it's just don't waste your time. It's a bad perk on M and K. You are literally wasting a weapon perk if you are using it on M and K. If you're on controller, it's going to be up to you. So if you use the weapon knowing that you're reducing the shake factor, that you're reducing the bounce, and if it works for you, then great. Keep doing it, I guess. But it's very possible that you could use a weapon and just feel no difference because you're already used to the amount of shake or bounce. It's not really bothering you that much. Yeah, it's not a good perk. I would rank it bottom of the barrel. And there we go. Wow, that's the long one. Every weapon perk in the game. Thank you if you watched the whole video. If you didn't come here to go to a specific chapter, if you just watched the whole thing, God love you. I hope that people can maybe bookmark this video and use it as a reference later. And if we get any new weapon perks in Season 15, or if any of these perks that I've mentioned change drastically in the future, I will put out an addendum or maybe a part 2 if there's too much to cover. And again, if I forgot any weapon perks, I really tried to get all of them, but if I missed any, do me a favor, let me know down below in the comment section. Just let me know, and I'll drop a comment there and tell you what I think of the weapon perk. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Please click the like button if you found any kind of value in it at all. And if you're new to the channel, click on subscribe. Really, really appreciate that. I will be back from my Alaska vacation on September 5th. Looking to jumping into season 15 with all of you. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.